Very good morning to you. Yes, it's the 20th December. There's a very happy mood here in the Newsroom studio this morning because, Elvis, we have a very interesting topic, and already, a lot of people around us are interacting with the topic because we decided to have a little bit of fun with it today. It's kind of news is slowing down a little bit, so we have to ask important questions.
Very important question, and this relates to every single person in our country and around the globe. We're asking you that question. Men, do you know what women really want?
They know, well, they think they know. And as it turns out, we've got a study that's been done by Unilever as they decided to change the masculine brands that they have. And what is interesting out of this study is that men believe something completely different from women with regards to what they want in life and general, Elvis. So that's the question to you today.
But I don't know what we have here, but here's some of the comments coming from that.
Israel is saying women want to be men.
What?
No, man.
Israel? Is that really
surely
true?
Surely that can't be true. But keep it coming. We're having a little bit of fun. Men's grooming company, Axe, they've done a full-on report on it. What are the most and the least attractive qualities listed by men and vice versa? Of course, some men believe it's wealth, a six-pack, muscular bodies, but it isn't.
And their manly pursuits, but no, it's not.
Yep.
We'll tell you more about that study a little bit later, but we want to know from you right now. What do you think? Do you know what women really want?
So we're talking about masculinity, we're talking about relationships today. We're asking, can men and women live happily ever after? It's the 20th of December. It's a time of the year when all these kinds of things comes in focus, Elvis. We've also had we've just finished 16 days of activism. We've seen some really horrific reports about violence against women, interrelationship strife, that kind of thing. So interesting, the numbers coming out here.
Yeah, and the question, of course, do you know what your woman wants? But 76 of you are saying that men and women can live happily ever after. Now, that's a good sign, Evan. That's 3/4 of what we're looking at.
3/4 of 162 respondents saying, yes, we can live happily ever after. I'm more worried about the 24% that say, no, you must be living in a very insular world, if I can call it that. But
not in the 21st century.
The tweets are coming in on can men and women live happily ever after. So Newman SABC says, limited choice, yes, and eat their choice. I think Newman is one of the guys who can't answer the first question.
Because Newman wants 3 choices, not just one. He just don't want yes or no. He wants another one in there, limited. So the caller says, not in our black community, we can't live happily ever after as couples there. I wonder why. Coolers, the question to you is, let us know why you're saying that.
That guy's called Cry Mangana. Cry Mangana says that we can't live happily ever after. Keep it coming to us. We'd love to interact with you. We have lots of news today. We're looking, of course, at the beach pass a little bit later in the show. But today, we're talking about the battle of the sexes a little bit. Interrelationships, we're talking about masculinity, we're talking about all these things. Relationships really come into focus at this time of the year, doesn't it?
There's a book that is called Men Live on Mars and Women Live, I can't understand.
Venus, obviously. Venus. Keep it clean.
That's the one.
Keep it clean. Women live on Venus.
So we want to know from you whether you think that is true or not. But let's get down to business
at
today.
SABC Newsroom, let's get the morning's news first up.
The United Nations Secretary-General Ban Ki-moon expresses sadness and sent his condolences to the family of a slain South African peacekeeper after an attack on an SANDF military base in the DRC yesterday. Remaining in the DRC, fresh clashes between demonstrators demanding that President Joseph Kabila steps down, and police have reported as Kabila's constitutional mandate expires today. We'll keep a close eye on that one. And 12 people have been killed and over 40 others injured after a truck believed to have deliberately plowed into a crowd of shoppers at a busy Christmas market in the German capital of Berlin. Those are all your headlines. But before we get ahead of us, let's find out from Kendall Makamate what's happening on the sports front, Kendall.
Quite a lot happening on the sports front. Good morning to you, gentlemen. Very interesting topic we've got today. I'm sure we're going to get lots of views and lots of tweets on the topic.
What's your view on our question of the day? What do women want? Do you have a view?
I do have a view, and I believe that I got it right when I met my wife, and she agreed to marry me. And I'll leave it at that, if I might.
Okay, he's obviously very domesticated.
Yes, very domesticated, and I'm playing it very safe. It is a very tricky subject, I might tell you. Good morning to you. This is what we've got for you in the sports today. Bidvest Vets have one last chance to go top of the log when they face Maritzburg United at the Herregala Stadium tonight.
To let him shoot. Oh, it's hit the post, and Mane follows in, and deep into injury time, Sadio Mane has probably won the derby for Liverpool.
Senegalese forward Sadio Mane scored a late win in the Merseyside derby to give the Reds the bragging rights to Liverpool.
I don't think it's just athletics, Jim, and I think there are other sports involved.
And the president of the World Anti-Doping Agency, Craig Reedy, says the doping problem is far bigger than just in athletics. All this and more I've got for you later on the Sports Bulletin about 10:40. For now, it is back to Elvis, who's got the news.
Thank you, Kendall. Top story. The United Nations Secretary General Ban Ki-moon has expressed his sadness at the death of the South African peacekeeper in the DRC. Ban Ki-moon was speaking exclusively to the SABC at the UN headquarters in New York.
I'm deeply saddened by the news that very brave South African peacekeeper was killed and 2 soldiers were seriously injured. I extend my deepest condolences and wish these injured soldiers will get recovered as soon as possible.
12 people have been killed and 48 others injured after a truck plowed through a crowd of shoppers at a busy Christmas market in the German capital of Berlin. The 25-ton truck was driven by an Afghan refugee who fled the scene before being arrested at a nearby zoo. German authorities say the incident is terror-related. It comes after warnings from various security agencies that ISIS plan to wreak havoc on European countries during the festive season. German authorities are questioning the man, though, thought to have been the driver of the truck.
A scene of terror. Authorities say the crash appears to be deliberate. The suspected driver's been arrested. A second co-driver died in the crash, according to police. It took place outside the ruins of the Kaiser Wilhelm Church, a World War II memorial, in the evening when the outdoor market nearby would be at the height of shopping times. Police telling Berliners to stay indoors. The incident evokes memories of the July attack in France when a man drove a 19-ton truck into revelers on Bastille Day, killing scores. It was claimed by Islamic State.
Well, that's your news for now. Let's go over to Eben to start our conversation for the day.
Yeah, Elvis, remember we did a very interesting poll that we ran yesterday where we asked people to give us some insight as to how they view a beach pass in Saldanha.
Yes.
You saw that story, caused a lot of social media. This is what actually ended up. We asked, should a beach pass be allowed in today's South Africa? That's the question we asked you. 192 people voted. That's the final result on that. 71% of people say, no, a beach pass should not be allowed at all. Interesting that 29% say, yes, we should allow beach passes. Considering our history, one would think it'd be a little bit different. But lots of tweets have been coming in with regards to this. As you can understand, we've had some issues or incidents of racism on the beaches already. Malafetsane Mofokeng says, Newsroom, if it's a privately owned beach, then the pass law is right. Way to know who's on your property, but if not, then that is a problem. Should we even have privately owned beaches in South Africa is another question. Bantu asks or says, but who forced them to buy property at a natural site that belongs to everyone? Racists must just go jump a hill. Says Bantu. Matibela Machare says, Newsroom, no, they can't reserve some places because we are all equal. The next one comes from Candace Christians, who says, in reply to what we asked, Never ever shall we stoop so low. Who told them to buy properties along the beach anyway? Says Candace Christians. Then Kenneth Kebachia says, Newsroom, people should protest against the beach ban. In fact, people must go to that beach by force, says Kenneth Kebachia. Of course, to give you the context of it, Saldanha residents on the Cape West Coast have mixed feelings following a decision by the local municipality there to temporarily close a road leading to the beach on Reconciliation Day. The move is regarded as racist by those who believe it's simply an effort to keep people of colour away from that specific area.
The coastal town of Saldanha. Here, a community divided. On Reconciliation Day, the municipality barricaded a narrow road leading to the beach and a residential area. They say it was to control traffic, especially public transport, from congesting the area. The reasons, however, have not been well received.
They are not right to close the road because this place is a place for all people, all black, white, all of the unity, you see. And now they make for us like days before.
Now is Christmas. The road we want to use to come to the beach, and that's why he closed it. Now we want to know why he closed it, because everyone used it road to go to the beach, and there's no way to come to the beach.
Others believe with the congestion comes more problems.
With regards to drinking on a beach, I feel that, it's not the right place to do so, and we should respect that, for others as well that comes to visit the beach, yeah.
I said there must be we do it because why there's a big trouble for the young kids and the women and also.
The ANC on the West Coast says it's upset by this move.
Our position are very clear. They must open up all public access roads to the beaches because it's festive season, it is public holidays, and people want to enjoy their right to access to the beaches.
The municipality, however, says the public has free access to beaches and parking areas. But when parking areas are full, no additional vehicles will be allowed. It also adds that Saldanha and nearby Paternoster were identified as high priority areas due to the influx of visitors over the festive season, and that similar measures were put in place in previous years. Vehicles will be checked for alcohol on weekends and major holidays. Carmel Lochmer-Roberts, SABC News, Saldanha on the West Coast.
Now, the spokesperson of the ANC on the West Coast region, Sammy Klaas, and that's the guy that you saw in that clip a short while ago. He'll join us a little bit later to give us their considered view and to how this thing will proceed and what kind of engagements they will have around us. Of course, on social media, a lot of people, most of South Africa are not happy. You even saw that in the poll that we put up yesterday. But let's go now and have a look at what you can get on social media at this hour. Which are the hashtags that you should be looking at? Of course, we'll start with the hashtag SABC inquiry. Yes, the last man standing, as it's been called, that of course was the chairperson of the SABC board, Mbolayeni Moguve, has resigned. The inquiry, however, will continue in the new year as Parliament want further answers to their queries. The DA's Pumzile van Dam, who asked witnesses many tough questions, reacted quickly to the news. She says, great news that Moguve has resigned, but the SABC inquiry must go on. We cannot stop now, given the deep set rot that we've uncovered. Then Sam Benyon says Moguve has resigned. The SABC is without a board. We are in desperate need of leadership at the public broadcaster. Some of the tweets with regards to the hashtag SABC inquiry. Now, some massive stories on the international front. Of course, there were 3 alleged terrorist incidents that took place yesterday. Of course, we'll start with the hashtag Christmas, but not because we're counting down the days. A driver drove into a crowded Christmas market in Berlin. There you see what's left of the truck. That killed 12 people, injured around 50. France have shown their support for Germany by lighting up the Eiffel Tower in the German flag in response. The picture you saw earlier, the Russian ambassador in Turkey, Andrei Karlov, was assassinated by one of his private security guards whilst at a gallery, an art gallery event. There you see that shocking picture that emerged. Russian President Vladimir Putin has vowed to step up the fight against terror. And of course, this one tweet comes in from Kelsey. It says, sad for Berlin, sad for Turkey, sad for Aleppo, sad for everyone in the world who is experiencing violence and hate. No one deserves this. Then, of course, 3 people were injured in a shooting near an Islamic center in the Swiss capital of Zurich. There's the hashtag you can follow. People are also talking about the citizens of Aleppo, a mother and daughter couple there who've been tweeting out of Aleppo and attracting hundreds of thousands of followers, called on Michelle Obama to assist them in escaping the war. They've been evacuated now. However, thousands of Syrians gathered to visit the old city for the first time in 4 years. It seems that the mood worldwide is quite saddened by all these attacks. Messages of peace are circulating on Twitter especially, and it's called Pray for the World. There you sit. Pray for the world. Now, time for our question of the day. Our question of the day is, totally different with what you've seen on social media. We're asking, what do women want? Tweet us. We'd love to hear what you think, because after the next break, we're going to have some interesting interviews around, issues of masculinity, issues around relationship, especially around this time of the year. Now, these are some live tweets that you guys are sending us in with regards to our question of the day. Jean-Claude, he says, women just want to be respected, loved, and considered as human beings. Nothing else. Wonderful tweet there, Jean-Claude Mbuyama. Jacqueline Friedman says, Newsroom, this is what women want. An honest man with money and sleeps with his wife only and adores his kids. Okay, that's very fair. An honest man with money. Do you get that? Shafana Zulesho says, Newsroom, they need love, care, and respect. Carlejo and Kaone says, Newsroom, women want everything. Everything. We want it all. Unati says, Newsroom, women want power, money, taking them out every day and do their hair every week. Do their hair every week, yes. I don't think they want to be taken out every day, but they do like to have their hair done once a week. Even my mother, bless her soul, she passed away earlier this year. She insisted on having her hair done once a week. That was kind of part of the marital contract that my dad, bless him, had to go through. But let's take a look now at our picture of the day. This one comes from Matthew Whitehouse, and he's captured the Berlin attack. Now, kind of encapsulates the horror after the Berlin attack. Now, police confirm it was a deliberate attack. It's a truck plowed through a Christmas market, rather, in central Berlin. Now, we can confirm right now that 12 people are dead and around 50 have been injured. Now, a comment of the day, this one comes from Varvara Herapetian, who says, something, somewhere, is terribly wrong. 12 killed in Berlin, a Russian envoy killed in Turkey, and 3 shot in Zurich. Yeah, as we build up during the season to be merry, it's incredible that the violence continues unabated, it seems, around the world. Yeah, in South Africa, of course, the courts are well open. Let's take a look at what you can see in the courts around the country. We'll start in Durban today, where Durban University of Technology student Bonginkosi Kanyile, the last student, still in jail after unrest at campuses nationwide, going to the Pietermaritzburg High Court today to challenge the court's decision not to grant him bail. Now, Kanyile was arrested in September during the Fees Must Fall protests on charges of incitement to commit violence, possession of explosives, and public violence. Kanyile has been denied bail twice. Then in Cape Town, 8 men accused of gang raping a 13-year-old girl in Nyanga. On the Cape Flats area, expected back in the Wynberg Magistrates Court. The girl was walking alone when she was abducted by a man and taken to an informal dwelling where he and his friends repeatedly raped her. She was then released the next day. We'll keep you updated on developments in the courts. Of course, we're going to take a break. After the break, we'll talk about what women want. And, of course, we're running a poll. Don't forget the poll we're running. Can men and women still live happily after? Before we go to the break, can we have a look at that poll? No? There we go. Where we are now, 162 votes. Can men and women live happily ever after? 76% of you say, yes, we can. Now, after a break, we will look at the research. Let's have a look at the tweets that you guys are sending in on this question, of course. I like the one, Elvis, where Jacqueline earlier says, women, they don't want much. They want an honest man with money.
Yes. Honest man with money. Now, that is the key, and we'll explore that a little bit later.
Sheila says, yes, we can live happily ever after. No problem. We can. She's confident in that.
And she lives in Lebanon.
Big Tabang. Yes, that is possible, but in a communist country. With a communist country. I don't quite get this one, Newman. You have to explain to me in another tweet, my friend. Limited choice, yes, no, and it's their choice. I'm not 100% sure. Takudzwa Muchenje says, women don't even know what they want, so how can a man know what women want? Takudzwa, you're not supposed to say that, my friend. Keep it coming. We love you interacting with us. It's the 20th of December, Elvis. It's that time of the year where we ask, well, the questions that, well, reverberate around the briar fires and I suppose around the lunch tables as we head into this weekend.
Yeah, this is the time of the year where couples can really spend some time together, you know, and right now it's 5 days before Christmas, so you better buy that present, because if you don't, you obviously have a problem as well. Then you won't be living happily ever after for the festive season.
Absolutely, you'll be in trouble in the dog's box, as it were. I've been there. It's not a good place to be. After the break, we will talk to you about what men think they know about what women want.
The proceedings of the Fees Commission has once again been disrupted.
We as a university do not feel that fee-free higher education currently is feasible.
This is a Mickey Mouse commission. During in the commission, student grievances we're not a part of the commission in the program. So that is why we tend to disturb the program.
If you tell me that I can't leave, then you are keeping me hostage.
Some students demanded that UCT lift the suspensions and expulsions of certain students.
What do women want? Now, men might think they know exactly what women want in them, but it turns out men and women have directly opposing views about what makes a man attractive. Now, this is according to a recent study by men's grooming company Axe. The study has revealed that 9 out of 10 women find guys most attractive when they simply themselves, and not when they flash money and their luxury cars. Now, we spoke to Ryan Fokania, the Unilever's Global Market Insight and Analytics Manager, and asked him to tell us more about the study.
Yeah, I think it's great news what the study is really revealing and showing how society is really evolving. And what the study has shown us, and it was a global study that was conducted across quite a number of countries, but ultimately this really showed us that there is a shift in masculinity and what attraction really is today. And I think, like you say, very positive news for all of us out there. But what this study is showing us is that 9 out of 10 women would prefer a guy who's just authentic and real, you know, rather than these guys, as you mentioned earlier, who flashy and, you know, even just all around six packs, abs, things like that. That just, it's not as important nowadays. Women want someone who's confident, consistent, and someone who's just willing to really be themselves.
So Ryan, you're telling us all the stereotypes that we've seen in mainstream media over the last 20, 30 years. That's all nonsense, the six-pack and these kind of things, the money, the big cars, the bling, all that kind of thing. That's not really what women are after. Is that what your study is telling us?
Yeah, so what the study is telling us is that society is evolving, so it's a change. I don't think we've reached that end destination, but I think if we look at what's out there currently in popular culture, it's definitely something that we see changing and evolving as time goes on. So yes, ultimately I think these stereotypes that we've created over the media in the past 20 to 30 years will be gone, but currently we're on that journey.
And let's, before we carry on talking about the merits, tell me about the study a little bit. How long did it take? How many respondents? All that sort of stuff, just so that we have an idea.
Yeah, so basically the study involved 3,500 people across the US, UK, Brazil, and Mexico, and that's the global study. And then we also conducted our own qualitative research here in South Africa to really get in depth and understand our South African man and what this really meant to our South African consumers and guys out there. And again, very much, what it's actually telling us is that the youth of today are, they're not embracing all these stereotypes of the past. They want to be their own man, just because their fathers or, their, peer sets, etc., their older peer sets at least believe in a certain stereotype or way that masculinity and this macho man, it's not something that they subscribe to anymore. They're definitely evolving and moving forward as consumers.
Now tell me about how lost the men of the world are today. What do the men still believe in? Do they still believe you've got to have a six-pack and don't smile much and be all tough? Is that what the men still think is sexy?
Yeah, sadly, there's a big disconnect between what guys actually think is attractive to what females actually saying is attractive. Because I think to some guys out there, I think there's that fear of expressing yourself, expressing really who you are. Because, I think there's that fear around labels. And I think that's also where the brands like Axe come in to really break down these barriers. I think we've got a responsibility to really tackle some of these issues that are holding guys back from really expressing who they are. And that's ultimately what Axe is doing and why we're embarking on this journey as a brand.
Now, I want to talk about women now. Let's go to women because, there's a school of thought that women are always competing amongst each other and pardon my French, but there's the bitch fighting thing that they call it amongst girls and heavy competitiveness and so forth. Is that kind of thing sort of coming to an end? Because that school of thought believe that women want what other women had or what other women wanted.
Yeah, so I think with where masculinity and attraction is going, I think we should start to see less of that, So ultimately, I know the basis of our study didn't go into the depths to understand that. We really wanted to understand what attraction meant to men and male and women out there, and ultimately how that affects and shapes masculinity and what it means today. But I think as an evolution and as we're seeing all of this evolve, I think naturally we'll see other bits and elements that fall into place, like you mentioned, start to move along as well.
Masculinity in South Africa is a concept that we discuss a lot on the show because masculinity ties into a lot of things that we find ghastly, like the prevailing rape culture and that kind of thing, and traditional roles and so forth. Is that role changing also? Is the man's traditional role evolving in society as we speak, or has it changed already?
I think, like we said, it's definitely evolving, especially that stereotypical masculine role that guys needed to portray, where you need to be that hard guy the whole time, you can never show your emotions, cry. I think nowadays, there are guys that are, comfortable with getting in touch with their emotions. Guys are open about talking about things that they're really thinking and feeling. And again, it's about the journey, and I think we're already on this journey. But yeah, definitely guys moving away from those strict and almost those patriarchal kind of gender roles of the past.
In conclusion, we're asking our viewers, what do women want? Because it's, the book is quite thick, they tell me. But no, in all seriousness, if you had to give advice to the men out there today and they had to ask you, what do women want? After having done the study and knowing what you know, what would you tell them?
I think, we touched on it earlier, but I think women are really looking for guys who are willing to express themselves authentically. And, really break out of all of those norms of the past. They're wanting someone who's not afraid to speak their feelings and tell them how they really feel. And ultimately, again, this is where brands can come in, and Axe is really there to kind of break down that stereotypical roles of the past and help guys be that most attractive and authentic version of themselves that they can be. And really, that's what we stand for as a brand. And ultimately, we just want guys out there to find your own magic.
Wait for it. The world has a new man, the modern man. Now he goes out to the barber shop to groom himself. He has a manicure and tops it up with a pedicure. How do you like that? This is the new idea of masculinity. Some call it metrosexuality. The conventional macho notion of a man with a stale sense of humor, straight face, untrimmed, and wear an old suit that he's always had for the past 10 years, well, that is now out of fashion. New research shows that today's women are drawn to men that not only groom, but follow the latest clothing trends. But they also need to have a good sense of humor. For more on this, we joined in studio by Sandra Cezani, a fashion editor for Destiny, as well as Destiny Man. A very good morning to you and welcome.
Good morning. Thank you so much for having me.
Talk to me about this modern man. Where did the idea stem from?
Well, he's certainly evolved because traditionally, the man had to be that typical idea of masculinity. He had to be very masculine, he had to assume certain roles, he had to be the protector, the provider. But now times have changed over the last couple of years where men take good care of themselves. They go to the spa, they like to treat themselves, and we're not complaining.
Is it getting better for the woman or is it getting worse for the man? Because now he's got to do more, right?
I think do whatever makes you happy. Yeah.
To what degree is masculinity perhaps a social construct in the world of today, you think?
I think definitely it is, and it's definitely a reflection of what is going on in the world right now. We're moving with the times, and the role and the whole ideal of what a man is has certainly changed to reflect what is going on.
Now, when we talk about masculinity, and we had a number of chats around this with other guests in terms of masculinity, how does it compare to femininity on the other hand? And is there a sort of distinction between the two?
Well, there are certainly those very traditional people that still believe that a man has to be a certain way, he has to behave in a certain way, and he has to assume certain roles which are considered manly, especially in the domestic sense. And the woman, this is her place, she cooks, she takes care of the children. But lines, as I said, they're blurred in fashion, things are unisex. People just need to figure out whatever works for them.
Now, there are those men, and I know some of them, that they don't want to be perceived as too feminine, They don't want to go for the manicure. They don't want to groom every day as they're supposed to. But what is this modern idea of the modern man place those type of people outside of the sphere?
It still fits in with this whole idea that, at the end of the day, he has evolved in some way in that he is aware of what's going on and he just makes a choice for himself whether to do it or not to do it.
Now, in your magazine, Destiny Man and Destiny, do you then uplift the so-called traditional man to the next level to become that modern man?
Absolutely. We definitely try, especially on our style pages, to try and introduce more contemporary ways to embrace fashion, to embrace a certain lifestyle, not to be stuck in the old ways. We definitely introduce it to them very slowly. And, some men are very adventurous and are already there, but there are certainly those men that are a little bit resistant, but are certainly open to changing.
Now, for the opposite sex, how important is it for a man to be comfortable, really, in his own skin?
It's very comfortable. That is what makes a man attractive. Women are attracted to men for very, very broad many different reasons.
Yes.
But for him to be confident and to embrace himself and to accept himself and to be authentic in who he is definitely very, very high up on the list.
What about those men that would whistle at women and over-complimenting them in the streets? How do women tend to react to that type of advances?
We don't like to be objectified. You know, respect us as women. You know, we're not these objects that need to just be judged on our outer appearance. Get to know a woman. You know, we don't really appreciate it at all.
In your magazine, is that part and parcel of the learning process?
In our magazine, we focus more on business, entrepreneurship. But, you know, we do have those more lifestyle, light-hearted topics that we address, and certainly those are some of the issues as well.
Now, we've been talking about 16 days of no violence against women and children throughout the campaign. And from your perspective as a female editor for Destiny Man, do you see and is there a perception that the type of behavior that traditional man would have shown towards his woman, that is decreasing in terms of violence against women and children?
Sadly, I don't think so. I don't think so. We're seeing so many atrocities against women and children, and it just continues to grow. But hopefully with these platforms and talking about it and educating men, and men also having their own conversations amongst themselves to better themselves and to certainly highlight that this is a real issue and it needs to stop. Hopefully change can happen.
Is there perhaps a sense that the modern man is a little bit more gender sensitive than the traditional man?
I think so. I think so. It's definitely more gender
And how
sensitive.
important it is for the modern man to be perhaps a role model, not just for his children, but for his community.
Exactly. It's very important. There are many social issues, there are many environmental issues, political issues, and it's really, really crucial for the modern man to be involved and to take charge and not just sit back while things are happening. You know, he needs to actually take charge.
Where does the traditional man start off when he starts to become a modern man? What does he do?
Well, he starts by treating women with a bit more flexibility and respect, and know that, you know, this is a different age. It's a new age, and we're not restricted to domestic duties only. Women are smart, women are accomplished, and they want to be acknowledged as well as equals.
We talked about the old suit of the traditional man, 10 years in the closet and still wearing it today. What does he wear today, and what should he wear?
I don't like to dictate what people should or shouldn't wear. You know, we're there to present trends and present fashion and educate people about what is out there in terms of, you know, style and clothing. But at the end of the day, it's up to a person. It's a very personal thing to craft their own individual style. I would say the most important thing is to get fitted. Nothing looks good than a well-tailored suit on a man.
Yes.
That's it. That already makes it a little bit more modern.
Doesn't matter what size he is.
Well, he must still get measured and still get a suit that perfectly, you know, flatters him and makes him look like the best version of himself.
Any more advice for the festive season coming up right now? You know that we're almost there and people are going to spend some money. So the traditional man is now in a position where he says to himself, you know, it's Christmas, it's festive season, I need to look good for my woman.
Yeah,
Advice.
absolutely, absolutely. He must look good for himself as well. He must represent himself well. It's not only just to attract us women. It starts with you, your inner confidence and your inner self. Do it. Don't splurge too much though. Don't be irresponsible, but definitely, you know, embrace the festive season and try a new color. Try something new.
Is there a sense that there's also perhaps classism that has crept in to the entire discussion of male and female?
Sorry, would you mind repeating?
Classism. Is that perhaps a sense that has crept into the discussion, into the narrative in terms of male and female right now in the modern day era?
I think so, and yes, it's unfortunate that we do pit ourselves against ourselves and we class ourselves, but we do need to remember that at the end of the day, we're all human and we're all here to achieve certain things that are hopefully for the better good for ourselves.
Sanda, I thank you so much for joining us here in studio.
Thank you so much.
There you have all the greatest tips that you can think of, not just for the festive season, but for the year ahead 2017. That was Asanda Sizani. She's a fashion editor for Destiny and Destiny Man, giving you all the tips you need. As a traditional man, throw away that old shorts. Try something different. It's the new season.
Yeah, normally this season we get socks and underpants. Hopefully that will change. You can go out and buy your own stuff and it's not a problem. Now, Elvis, the lines are going crazy because people are loving the show today. They're loving the fact that we are bold enough to ask these questions.
It's a very important question. It's a question that man, the traditional man, has been suffering through the ages to understand women, and it's very difficult to understand them because we have a couple of pictures and memes that talk to that,
We'll talk
right?
to the memes now. First, let's take the tweets because people are keen on giving us their view, what they want us to know. Jean-Claude says, it's really nonsense that the study about women behavior is conducted by a man. This is exactly what women don't like. Jean-Claude, it wasn't conducted by that man. It was conducted by a group, a research company. One dealer, Elvis,
says, women want love, peace, and harmony. It's supposed to be harmony, right?
Isn't it humor?
Looking beautiful. Well, maybe it's humor, but it could be harmony as well. Looking beautiful and being appreciated at all times. So says one dealer.
Okay, Quena 555 says, women don't know what they want. They're just the most complicated, yet interesting people, says Quena.
Well, you can relate to that. DST says, ladies will always compete. Women of today want money. That is, if a guy has money on how he looks, it does not matter at all. So they want money, he says, and it doesn't matter what he looks, whether he's got a boopy or a shorts, wearing a shorts with some sandals or a suit.
Sipo says, women want someone who is not afraid to express themselves.
Well,
Sipo's going very deep there.
Well, Sipo really has encapsulated what the research says, that men should express themselves to women. One dealer says women want to be loved at all times and need men who are responsible. Well, speaking the gospel, speaking the truth.
Absolutely, on point there. Now, these are your tweets coming in. We're also getting lots of memes, funny memes. Let's take a look at some of the funny memes that you can see. Well, that talks to relations between men and women, that talks to the question of today around what women want. There's some really interesting ones that have been on social media for a while. There's how to understand women. There's a big little question mark. I think the whole point of it is that we'll never know.
Yeah, that's a question mark. We don't know.
Then the book. This is volume 1, by the way. Volume 1, the book on how to understand women has just been released. This gentleman has just gone through chapter 1 of volume 1. As you can see, it's a very difficult process.
And apparently there's 100 more volumes to follow. And this one, Eben says, and that, my students, is how you understand women. That whole board, completely.
Yeah, it's quite a simple equation, isn't it? This one from Will Ferrell, the famous actor. He says, trying to understand women is like trying to smell the color 9. Which kind of shows the desperation.
Stephen Hawking was originally going to write a book on how to understand women, but the math just got too complicated. So he solved the universe instead. So it means we are still at volume 1.
Correct, you saw that book.
We will never progress to volume 100.
Well, anyhow, time for us to take a short little commercial break. When we come back, we'll speak to, a feminist and blogger about what women want and how do we define the new dynamic between men and women. Don't go away, it should be an interesting one.
Water-wise, water is an essential need. The scarcity of it could lead to loss of many lives, including livestock, plants, and much more. It requires us to use it sparingly and responsibly in times of need. failing which our taps and sanitation will not function. For more on water and weather issues, stay tuned to News Today, every Friday at 4:45 Central African Time. SABC News, making you water-wise.
Now, a recent study by men's grooming company Axe says that women find men who are simply themselves and not those who flash money attractive. Only 20% of women find manly guys more attractive. In fact, the least attractive qualities women listed for men to display was their wealth, muscular bodies, and manly pursuits. Now, we spoke to the writer, Thabiso Mhlape, and asked her if she agrees with the study.
I think so. My gosh, I mean, that people even have budgets to waste like this. Why aren't they giving us the money? This is ridiculous. Why are they 2 years? They spent 2 years to come up with this, is my worry. 2 whole years of people getting paid salary to come up with something we've always known.
But doesn't it mean that this was a thorough study and that maybe that they've done their work right?
I don't know. I mean, listen, this is it's not even about a men or women. It's a global human thing. You know, everyone has to be themselves. If you can't go fleshing things other than who you are, to attract anything or anybody.
So you think the idea that they're putting forward that women now prefer men with a lovely smile and a positive demeanor, women prefer that? Do you think that's maybe a stretch?
Also, I think the fundamental flaw as well of this study is to assume that all women are the same and that all men are the same. See, not all women are going to be attracted to the same thing. Yeah. And also, are we defining what attraction is? Are we talking attraction? Are we talking connection? Because attraction is something very superficial. Yeah. And I mean, if you're going to look at what attracts you in a person, it must be because of an objective you have as a person. Yeah. So it's all very, and also who was interviewed? I want to know these people.
So you say socioeconomic conditions, the time, and all these things.
There's so many layers. There's so many layers that inform what a person is looking for. And also sometimes what people are looking for isn't necessarily what they're attracted to. Sometimes it is a need.
So amongst men, and I can speak for the boys there, because, you know, men suffer more insecurity than you could ever imagine. I think in general, and I can vouch for it, men are more insecure than women. That said, they believe, and I've grown up with men in my group who believe that you need the money, you need the flashy cars, you need to have the six-pack in order to be somebody. So much so that I've spent 20 years on diet because of that.
My condolences. Very sorry about that.
So what do you say then to this idea amongst men that you need the big car and the big wallet in today's world in order to be seen? You know the theory that you receive what you put out. So if the money and the cars are what you put out, or you're going to get people that are there for those things, I believe. You know, I mean, those things should be a bonus. If you find someone that you connect with, someone you're attracted to, and they have those things, I think they're a bonus. But also there are people that will say, I mean, and also, I mean, with the evolution happening, with women having money, you know, the economic disposition of women has changed. Yeah. And women have their own money now, you know, at least a small percentage of women. It's not in the old days where someone was looking for a provider. Yeah. You know, where all you had to be as a man was to provide. Yeah. You know, so what do you bring to the table? Other than the fact that you can take me out to a nice restaurant. We live in the blessing age, of course, the age of blessers that have risen in South Africa. And you believe that's not an indictment of the time, it's more an indictment of socioeconomic conditions that exist in South Africa. Also the time. I mean, listen, if social media is the thing that connects us at the moment, and people see all these, the lives that are Instagrammable, and they also want Instagrammable lives, then that's what they're going to be going out for. So you see, at that point, if someone just wants a life that they can put on Instagram, if they want Dubai pictures, they're not going to care if you've got abs for days. So is that 15 minutes of fame that Andy Warhol spoke about 30 years ago. That's what we all after now.
Yeah, so they're going to sit there in your company, in your fleshy cars, and wait for the moment where you ask for the account number, because at that time, it's not e-wallet anymore. You have
that don't even exist. But let's talk about the disconnect that exists between what women think men find sexy and what men think women find attractive. There seems to be a disconnect between the two. I think men think cars, money, and the like, and you know, us men, we just want a little bit of loyalty ultimately.
I think society's linear teaching. You know, when you grow up as a little boy, you know, you taught hypermasculinity, you taught you're going to provide, you must protect, you must. And then girls are taught that you need to look pretty, you need to look a certain way for you to attract a man, for you to be chosen. And for me, just the fact that I as a woman of my size, has boyfriends and I can have sex means that nonsense is not valid, you know, because you have to imagine that every person is attracted to a person for whatever reason. I mean, if they say men are visual, so all the magazines like Cosmopolitan and Disney, men are visual beings. But if men are visual beings, they're not even attracted to the same thing themselves. So why is it that women are now asked to be attracted to something? Why do we need to put something on the table that's this is the thing? There is no ultimate thing.
So would you say a lot of these creations are then creations in mainstream media today to on-sell?
Absolutely. It's like, so we went through an era of Cosmo telling us about 20 best sex positions, you know, so now now we're going for a little bit more depth, you know, we're trying to find the depth in the men. We've been finding depth in men.
Yeah, those positions, some people I know would never be able to get up again. But in conclusion, if you had to give your top tips to the guys, never mind the women, because we know women have their own set of unique problems. But if you had to give some tips in the festive season, what should the guys be thinking about and going out and how should they be talking to women?
Well, first, so one, the man needs to know himself. You need to know who you are, what you're about. And then when you approach a woman, you have to be willing to listen to what that woman wants. So for example, I don't date guys that wear bigger than a size 32 jeans. So if you come to me with a size 36 and I tell you that this is not what I prefer, and you try to beat me into understanding or compromising, then already we frictioning, you know? So I think just listen to what the other party has to say, accept what they have to say, and no is a thing. Like, honestly, you can be told no.
You can be told no, and it doesn't have to destroy you.
You can just move on to, it's not about you, it's a subjective thing. Just move on to the next person and just find someone that is connected or is attracted to you in some way.
It's sad that you tell me this because, you know, I haven't been a 32 since about 1995.
Sorry, baby, hit the gym and call me.
Hit the gym and call me. We had a lot of fun doing that interview. She's an absolute bag of fun. But some fantastic points that she makes, you know, around be yourself and be natural and speak to people like they are people, not like they are objects. It's a simple thing. I think it's something we all have to change. Great comments we got coming in on Facebook. So we ask, what do women want? This one from Maubuya. She says, what do women want? To be left to define ourselves by our own standards, not by men's. For us and our children to feel safe around the men in our society. To reach our greatest potential regardless of the hurdles placed before us. Maubuye, fantastic comment there coming in on Facebook. Of course, we've got lots of stuff coming in on all the social media platforms. Let's take a look at some of those new ones coming in. Of course, we've been running a poll. Can men and women live happily ever after? We thought we'd ask the question. 173 votes are in now. 76% of you say, yes, of course, we can live happily ever after. We do it every single day. 24% of them say no. Are they the miserable ones?
That's a quarter of men either being divorced or left alone. And those are the people that would comment that you say that you can't live happily ever after. But the 76%, three quarters, really proves that there is a possibility.
That's how the world works, I think. You know, yeah, they're the pessimists, but those are the optimists. So those are the ones I think that believe in love and are the romantics at heart, I think, is that we are compatible. The journey is one that we must make together, and we need to be humble with our partners.
And express yourself. And be comfortable with yourself. It starts all there.
Yeah, in the next hour, we're going to be talking, Elvis, to Professor Kopane about masculinity, about traditional men's role in a sort of cultural and traditional sense here in South Africa, and also how that plays out in our society today. It should be an interesting discussion. A little bit later, we'll also have an extended interview with Ban Ki-moon, of course, on issues affecting South Africa as he's about ready to leave the UN. We're going to take a short commercial break. Back with you at the top of the hour. Don't forget to tweet us. What do women want?
Give me that paperwork. Where is your paperwork?
I don't know what's going on. Suddenly I'm locked up.
This is not fair, Senator Twasezana. Not fair.
Ukuputse rent ka 200. Hape ukupula ka 200. Uri ngwana o i1. 150 plus koloi. Leon, tlamehile in another one 150.
I'm just the one to lock you out.
Yes,
I'm
that's
the
one to
keys.
lock me then out.
You are starting gangsterism.
No.
It was bound to be an interesting debate with Donald and Hillary, him not even having bothered to prepare. So he was flying on instinct. And it didn't come across quite well. I'm starting a hashtag, medical fees must fall. There are many students who are protesting who are not necessarily violent. The students are saying the issue is how to implement, whereas the Commission's mandate is to look at
feasibility. Yeah. Among these countries, only South Africa allows same-sex marriages. Very concerning indeed, Prof.
Your sexual orientation does not demean your own humanity, doesn't make you less of a human being. That really is the essence.
When cell phones get cut off, people say Mdluli was listening. Who are you?
We have to approach Dennis Breitenbach, who was the prosecutor by then.
The DA parliamentarian?
That's correct. The one who was making halabaloo about me.
There are allegations here that you abused the slush fund. What do you say to that?
We don't have slush fund. I don't know about slush fund.
I respect the fact that you cannot talk a lot about the Secret Service and all that. I guess that's the norm internationally. But how do we know that you, Richard Mdluli, are not abusing the funds of the state? You are counted amongst the president's men. Are you?
That is rubbish.
Also the matter of General Boysen in KZN. He's not speaking very well of you.
No, that one is talking rubbish.
You are perceived to be very powerful, General, and you know, people who don't agree with you seem to pay the price. What is happening with the Oparamkribe case?
No, I'm surprised because as I've said, I'm a person of people.
Did you know the big hole digging started in 1871 and ended on the 14th August 1914? The hole produced 2,722 kgs of diamonds. However, one diamond as huge as 490 carat of stone found in the open prior 1868 gave them the interest to dig. extracted from 22.5 million tons of soil. Today, the hole sits at a breathtaking 214 meters deep. Kimberley Big Hole attracts tourists from all over the world, taking a vintage tram past the city, then cycling around the Big Hole.
Welcome back, everybody. Yeah, we're doing a different show today. We're asking a question: what do women want, and are we compatible? And all the things around masculinity. Now, Rene West has just joined us. I think it's fair for us to ask Rene. Can you answer the question for us? What do women really want?
Put her on the spot, why don't we?
I'm feeling that now I'm in the hot seat, Kendall.
Yeah, tell us. We want to know, though.
For me personally, I think it all depends on the woman, but I would say a loyalty. I think in this day and age with all the social media, it's very easy to
not be loyal.
Not be loyal. So
what do you want? What do you want?
I would say loyalty, yeah.
Loyalty. You should get a dog, Rene. Get a dog, you'll be happy. Well, but we're having a little joke around it, but it's actually a very serious topic. Let's take a look at your tweets, because it's all about what you think and what you tell us around this question. Now, Kendall, just what does Tabang say?
Yes, Big Tabang says, a six-pack without brains is dangerous. Wise lady once said, women want to be loved fully.
Fully. Six-pack without brains. Wow. Mwako Mashao says, women loves respect and time. Money is not the answer because they can work for themselves. Wonderful comment there.
Tabo says, women want men to stop cheating. See, loyalty.
Yeah, this guy knows what he's talking about.
Super Mahoro, women want money first, then love, care, and honesty. That's interesting. That's interesting.
Sipo says, as long as they feel protected, it's fine with them.
Well, the comments are coming in thick and fast. This one from Jean-Claude Muyama. He says, it's really nonsense that the study about women's behavior is conducted by a man. This is exactly what women don't like. Jean-Claude, it wasn't actually. It was done by an international research company that came up with a new kind of new brand equity for the Axe brand. So that's where that study comes from. So on the back of the study, we even put up this question on a poll, Rene, to see where our relationships are today. Can men and women live happily ever after?
Well, it's 76% saying yes, we can, and 24% saying no. I think those are the ones that perhaps maybe need to transform.
Yeah, no. I think a certain percentage of us should stay single. The other tweets on that question, can we live happily ever after? Sheila says, yes, we can live happily ever after at Lebanon in Mabopani. I hope Lebanon is her husband.
Big Taban once again comes back in. He says, yes, it is possible, but in a communist country. Okay.
Lechasa says, South African women can't be happy forever.
Lechasa, I don't know what you're saying. There we go. Keep it coming. We love your comments. We love your tweets. We love it when you interact with us. This is what Newsroom is all about. It's December the 20th. We're having a little bit of fun, but there's still a lot of serious business for us to be had. Let's do a little bit of housekeeping now with Rene West.
The United Nations Secretary-General Ban Ki-moon expresses sadness and sent his condolences to the family of a slain South African peacekeeper after an attack on the SANDF military base in the Democratic Republic of the Congo yesterday. Remaining in the DRC, fresh clashes between demonstrators demanding that President Joseph Kabila steps down, and police have been reported as Kabila's constitutional mandate expires today. 12 people have been killed and over 40 others injured after a truck plowed through a crowd of shoppers at a busy Christmas market in the German capital, Berlin. Before we get into that news, let's find out from Kendall what we should know in the sports.
Good morning, Renee. Welcome back and thanks for joining us for 10 o'clock. And tell you what, quite a lot happening in the sports. We've got some football on the go. We're about to go into a long Absa Premiership break here, but I don't know what a lot of soccer fans are going to do. I mean, it's all the way until the 7th of February, I tell you.
Yeah, it's a little bit too long. Fortunately, we'll be watching a lot of international football. In England, there'll be lots of matches over the next couple of weeks, so that'll be great to watch, won't it?
Yeah, 100%. We're looking forward to that as well. We all know what's happening, and the Merseyside derby being one of the things I'm going to be speaking about today. So good morning to you. This is what we've got for you in the sports today. Bidvest Wits have one last chance to go top of the log when they face Maritzburg United at the Harry Gwala Stadium tonight.
To let him shoot. Oh, it's hit the post, and Mane follows in, and deep into injury time, Sadio Mane has probably won the derby for Liverpool.
Senegalese forward Sadio Mane scores a late winner in the Merseyside derby to give the Reds the bragging rights to Liverpool.
I don't think it's just athletics, Jim, and I think there are other sports involved.
And the president of the World Anti-Doping Agency, Craig Reedy, says the doping problem is far bigger than just in athletics. All this and more I've got for you later on the Sports Bulletin. I'll also be bringing you an interview that I've had with Cairo Howarth, the president of EFC Worldwide, around about the same time. 10:40 it is, but for now it is back to Renee, who's got the news.
Thank you, Kendall. Now, news just in. Turkish police have reportedly detained 6 people over the killing of the Russian ambassador Andrei Karlov. He was shot in the back as he gave a speech in Ankara last night by an off-duty police officer shouting, "Don't forget Aleppo" and Allah Akbar. Now, the attacker's mother, father and sister and 2 other relatives were held in the western province of Aydin, while his flatmate in Ankara was also detained. Earlier, the United States announced that its 3 missions in Turkey would be closed after a gun was fired in front of the US Embassy in Ankara overnight. Now, the embassy was near the art gallery where Karlov was shot, and Turkish police detained a man over the incident. Moving on to other news. Now, our US-based SABC correspondent, Sherwin Bryce Peace, was given one of the last interviews with outgoing UN Secretary General Ban Ki-moon. This comes before he leaves office at the end of the year. In this exclusive SABC News interview, various issues in international relations came under the spotlight, such as the crisis in the DRC, transitions of power in Africa, South Sudan and Syria.
The Secretary-General of the United Nations in one of his final sit-down interviews before his mandate expires on December 31st this year. I am now joined by Ban Ki-moon. Welcome to SABC News.
Great pleasure to see you. Thank you for this opportunity.
Thank you for the opportunity, Secretary General. I wanted to start in the DRC and the attack by rebels on MONUSCO peacekeepers, particularly the South African contingent, in which 1 soldier was killed, 2 were seriously injured. Why are rebels continuing to flourish in the eastern DRC, despite this being one of the largest peacekeeping missions anywhere in the world?
I'm deeply saddened by the news that very brave South African peacekeeper was killed and 2 soldiers were seriously injured. I extend my deepest condolences and wish these injured soldiers will get recovered as soon as possible. Unfortunately, we have seen more than 100 peacekeepers died in the course of their very noble peace mission. It's been happening every year, and I sincerely hope that the people, concerned parties, will resolve all these issues through political negotiation. In the meantime, MONUSCO is firmly committed to preserve peace and stability. The safety and security of UN staff, including peacekeepers, is a primary priority.
UN peacekeepers, particularly in the DRC, just today are of course on high alert, given the fact that the incumbent president, Joseph Kabila's mandate expires today. Of course, we've been talking about this now for a number of months. We've seen tens of thousands of paramilitary officers and police fanning out across the streets of major centres due to concern that there could be violence against any extension in his term. How concerned are you, Secretary General, that we are again going to see the DRC enter into civil war?
In February, I visited DRC and had a meeting with the President Kabila. And since then, my special envoy and Security Council members and all of our senior advisors, including myself, have been urging President Kabila and the parties concerned to resolve all these issues through inclusive dialogue, a wider and wider consultations. And last weekend, I had the telephone talks with President Joseph Kabila. And while I appreciate his leadership, but I also urged that this continuing dialogue should be further deepened in a wider way. And I also appreciate this dialogue mediation facilitated by CENCO, the Conférence Épiscopale Nationale du Congo. This will bring some good result. It's important that all the parties concerned agree for a peaceful and accountable transitional measures on the presidential election.
I mean, the situation in the DRC, you'll agree, comes within a broader context about the transitions of power in Africa. We've seen many of those actually happen. South Africa, Namibia, Mozambique, most recently Ghana. There is positive news coming out in terms of peaceful transitions from one party to the other. And yet we have examples like Burundi, the Gambia most recently, Gabon. Your message has been very clear over a number of months, but it doesn't appear that African leaders necessarily are all listening.
It's very unfortunate and sad that many African leaders are not keeping their promises to work within the provisions of Constitution. That is why last year and this year, during AU summit meeting in Addis Ababa, on 2 occasions, I have publicly stated and urged African leaders that when their constitutional term comes to an end, they should not arbitrarily amend the Constitution. They should not cling to power. And I have been urging them that please listen very attentively to the voices and aspirations of their people and abide by these constitutional provisions. And unfortunately, we have seen several cases, even after my repeated calls. Even President Obama of the United States, when he visited African Union in July last year, he also repeated what I had already said.
But what do you make, Secretary General, of the argument from many African leaders that say, you know, this is Western interference in the sovereign decisions of our nation states?
Of course, any country, a sovereign country, has their own sovereign right to do whatever is necessary, but that should be based on the will of the people. It's not the president or leaders who change the constitution. Power comes from people. And this is clearly stated in all the countries' constitution. That's a basic tenet of democratic principles.
Secretary General, let's talk about the International Criminal Court and the withdrawals, or certainly the intention to withdraw from the Rome Statute. South Africa leading the way on that score. I understand that you were personally aggrieved by South Africa's decision in particular. Take us into your confidence. Why were you personally aggrieved by South Africa's intention to withdraw? And what did you say to President Jacob Zuma when you spoke with him on this issue?
I regret that such a very important country, leading country in African continent and also in the international community, has decided to withdraw from Rome Statute. Rome Statute and International Criminal Court is a centerpiece of international criminal justice. And South Africa had been participating in the negotiation process of this Rome Statute and was one of the staunch supporter of this international criminal justice, and one of the first countries to join this Rome Statute. In that regard, since according to this provision, there are still some time left, I sincerely hope that South Africa will change their decision and come back to return to Rome Statute. This will give a very important message. Recently, we have seen other countries like Gambia and Burundi. They have
Kenya and Namibia are also considering now.
But I'm not in a position to comment on this. I sincerely hope that the African countries will show their strong commitment for accountability and eliminating impunity.
Secretary General, you haven't said much about the fact or about the argument that African countries are making, that they feel that they are being unfairly targeted, that some of their commitments to the Rome Statute perhaps don't gel with other international commitments like the AU Constitutive Act. Do you believe that there is any credibility to the complaints that Africans have about the ICC?
I'm aware of the concerns and also some perceptions shared by certain African countries that this ICC is targeting only African countries. But if you look at the case which are pending in International Criminal Court, several cases were submitted by the African countries themselves. There are not many such cases that this was initiated by the court or some other countries. Therefore, if you really want to have some improvement of this system, then the proper venue is assembly of the state parties. And it would be much better to remain in the system if you really want to change the system or improve the working method of the system. I'm urging again the South African leaders, President Zuma, to reconsider this decision.
Well, since you're talking about system failures, let's talk about Syria. As Secretary General, I don't think a discussion with you would be complete without talking about Syria. You've called it a collective failure. You've spoken about your personal heartbreak. And yet many would argue that on Syria there have been very specific actions by individual countries that have prevented this collective action that you seek when we deal with the Security Council. Is it fair to blame the collective when some would argue that individual countries are more to blame?
When United Nations, particularly Security Council, is united, we have seen that much, much greater and stronger support could be given. Unfortunately, we have seen so many occasions, so many times that Security Council has been divided among particularly permanent members of the Security Council. In that regard, it's quite encouraging that this morning, today, December 19th, Security Council has adopted a unanimous decision resolution by allowing the deployment of observers so that international community led by the United Nations can deliver humanitarian assistance and observe the situation there. This kind of unity of purpose is necessary. Just looking at what had happened during the last 6 years, so many millions of people have to flee their countries, and so many 100,000 people have been killed. And most of the infrastructures, water system and sanitation and hospitals have been destroyed. Then it's a very serious and heartbreaking scenes that we see every day. Children, boys and girls and women, and they are either being killed or crying for help.
But it speaks also directly, Secretary General, to the credibility of the United Nations, and you are the face of that United Nations, whether it's the Security Council that's not acting, the General Assembly or whatever organ, you are still a symbol of that represents the United Nations. Do you believe that Ban Ki-moon has hurt the UN's credibility?
It's very difficult to characterize it that way. It's a collective responsibility. All member states, particularly Security Council members, they have shown unity of purpose and global solidarity. I'm conscious of all this kind of a criticism, and I'm willing to take that criticism and also responsibility. But this responsibility could be shared, should be shared by the member states, and particularly when some people like President Assad of Syria, he seems to believe that all these issues could be solved through military means. But as we have seen in the many hundreds of years of history, then military means sometimes may be necessary, but it cannot bring any sustainable solution of the problems.
But let me push you on that, Secretary General. You've called, for example, in the situation in Syria for ICC referral. In South Sudan, your Secretariat staff, including yourself, have called for an arms embargo. And yet you don't see the Security Council coming to the party in that regard. Do you feel that you're being undermined? Do you feel disrespected by the Council at times?
Member states, first of all, should respect the principles and goals and ideals of the UN's Charter. But often, starting from the Security Council, they have been focusing on their narrow national or regional perspectives and interests. That is why we have seen many divisions. Syrian people are divided into largely two groups. But even the Syrian armed groups are divided into many different groups, almost uncontrollable, without any chain of command. The regional powers have been divided, and Security Council have been divided. That has provided perfect storm and perfect ground where ISIL and extremists could set their roots deeply. It's important to eradicate and defeat this extremism and terrorism by military means, whatever means required, in the name of humanity. But at the same time, military means is not the only way. There should be an inclusive political dialogue so that we can find transitional government with the full authority on security and intelligence.
You've had 3 special envoys. I mean, does this perfect storm leave the UN less powerful in this conversation?
Yes, of course. I have appointed the #1 top world diplomats, negotiators, including my predecessor Kofi Annan, Lakhdar Brahimi again, and Stefan de Mistura. It's not because of the lack of diplomatic skill. It's because of lack of global solidarity, lack of compassion for humanity. And why this situation should continue like this way, why so many people should be left homeless or should be killed because of some very narrow personal interest.
Secretary General, let's touch on development. Just a couple of questions before I let you go. Among your accomplishments, and you can agree or disagree with me, is the SDGs, the Paris Climate Change Agreement. You recently spoke about how these agreements, particularly climate change, were unstoppable, despite the election of Republican skeptics to high office in the United States. What's your message to a Trump administration, an incoming Donald Trump administration, particularly on the question of climate change?
On November 11th, just 3 days after his election, I have spoken over the phone with President-elect Donald Trump. We discussed the issue of climate change and many other important issues. I believe that as a very successful global business leader. Now he's going to be a very important political leader of the United States. He has already seen the force in the market, how business are now being operated. It's not only the government, the business CEOs, and it's not only business CEOs against government, it's the people on the ground, the civil society. They all demand that the government must lead this campaign, and particularly United States and China, to make sure that this world is environmentally sustainable, reducing global temperature rise below 2 degrees, and if possible down to 1.5 degrees. Many business CEOs have already retooled their business operations. Many important and big provinces and cities like California and Los Angeles and Nashville and Las Vegas, and many big business companies.
So you should get on the train.
They have changed the low carbon economy, decarbonizing their business operations. That's the answer. I'm sure that, and also I'm hopeful that President-elect Mr. Donald Trump will understand this unstoppable trend of international community. Yeah.
The train has left the station and he might as well get on board.
Of course.
I know, as a final question to you, a departing shot, I know you're reluctant to talk about your future plans, so I'll ask you this. After decades Secretary General in public life, 10 years in this office, what many argue is the toughest job in the world. Why wouldn't you say that at 72 years old, I've done my bit, I want to enjoy the rest of my life without the stress of politics? Why not just retire?
That is my personal wish. But sometimes, as a public servant, when your expertise or experience or your vision are required by your community or by in any way, then you should be prepared to provide what you can do for your family, for your country, for your community, or for the world. So I'm open to all these options as former Secretary General of the United Nations. And it has been a great privilege to serve this great organization working for international peace and security and development and human rights, and also meeting so many different type of people around the world, not to mention presidents and prime ministers and ministers, but business communities and just the civil society leaders and many people of a vulnerable group of people. Those are all our family members of international community. So I'm willing to do anything which may come in the future. Yeah.
Well, we thank you so much and we wish you everything of the best, Secretary General. Just, no matter what it is you decide to do, we'll be watching very, very closely. Thank you and all the very best.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
The 8th and outgoing Secretary General of the United Nations, his term mandate ends on December 31st this year. And of course then Portugal's former Prime Minister Antonio Guterres, also of course the former High Commissioner for Refugees, will take the reins here at the United Nations.
Have an exclusive interview by our SABC correspondent Sharon Bryce-Peace with outgoing Secretary General of the UN, Ban Ki-moon, of course talking about South Africa's withdrawal from the ICC, as well as one of our soldiers who was unfortunately killed in the DRC. Well, it's time now to take a break. We'll be right back after this.
Whether you're looking for a restaurant, public transport, or a university, a lot of us use our smartphone apps to find the closest one. On Network, we chat to those who play a role in Africa's tech space.
We have taken financial services closer to the people. Yeah, mobile penetration is pretty high.
Apple take 30%, keep 70%.
On Network, we give you Africa's social media and technology news. That's Network with Ms. Phumelele Zondi every Sunday at 7:30 p.m. Central African Time.
Man up or act like a man. It's just one of the many phrases which young boys hear as they transition to manhood. How many times haven't you heard it? Now, many of these phrases can lead to harmful gender stereotyping and paint an image of how men should act or who they should be. Liberating Masculinities is the latest offering by Professor Kupano Ratele, and the book offers both theoretical as well as psychological insight to liberate you and me as men, as well as those who are involved in the making of men. Now, to talk to us about this book, we are joined in our Cape Town studio by Professor Kupano Ratele, a masculinity expert. A very good morning to you, Prof, and welcome.
Good morning, Alvin.
First and foremostly, I want you to talk to us about your new book, Liberating Masculinities. What inspired you, or what inspired the title first and foremostly, and what inspired you to write the book?
Well, I have the book right here, Liberating Masculinity. The inspiration is a number of years of work, of study, of reflection, and working with men. You know, you can liberate a country without liberating society, without liberating the people in it. And so we have this kind of interesting problem in this country, that the country has achieved a constitutional democracy, but democracy is not the prevalent form of relationship in workplaces, in public, in politics, at least between everyday politics, and certainly in families. And this is the inspiration for the book. And the book covers a wide range of topics, from clothes to blackness, as was espoused by Steve Biko, to what feminism can do for men. In between, it talks about tradition and culture. It talks about violence. So I try to cover a number of things, and I think people might find it interesting, as I've heard others tell me already.
What is the value of feminism, especially to boys and men in general?
I'm not exaggerating when I say feminism can save your life. I mean, we have to say this repeatedly. I have to say this repeatedly. The feminism is not against men. There's a variety of feminism, and some feminism, not the feminism of elite women, women who are sitting somewhere in the developed world, in rich houses, somewhere in New York or in Switzerland, but feminism that addresses poverty, for instance, that addresses inequalities between groups, not just between men and women, but also between classes, between sexualities. And in this country, that feminism will save not just young women's lives, but young men's lives, because feminism says and confronts you with the fact that you, as a man, some of the beliefs that you have held for a long time about controlling women and children are harmful to you, to your health, to your happiness. And feminism is an attempt to reveal and to show you that there are other ways to be a man, such as democratic relationships between partners, between lovers, between spouses.
Now, break that down for us, because feminism means different things to different people. So if you had to explain it to a young boy, what would you say to him?
Well, as I said, yes, you're quite right. Feminism means different things to different people. But one of the things feminism teaches is that in the family, for instance, if you're going to teach young men, boys, that they are better than girls just for the fact of being boys, you're already setting them up on a route to unhappiness, to violence, because when they are confronted with women who are independent, girls in class and potential girlfriends or potential boyfriends who says, no, you cannot control me, I have my money. If they're confronted with that, that is already, they've already been predisposed to unhappiness, to violence. So feminism, right at the start, it says boys and girls should be treated equally, that there is not one gender, there's not one sex that is better just for the fact that they are a particular gender. That men are not naturally, and they should not be treated as better than women. So this is basically what feminism is about. And then feminism, of course, the feminism that I prefer is one that joins issues around being boys and issues about economic inequality, poverty, land. So feminism that is grounded in the conditions under which boys in a shack somewhere in Khayelitsha or in Alexander, in a township somewhere in KwaZulu-Natal or in the Northwest. That feminism is the feminism that I prefer.
Mm-hmm. Now, we live in a patriarchal society, Professor. Now, how do we get men to accept that gender relations are changing day by day in this world and that women are really equal to men?
I've just had a really interesting conversation in an earlier interview that most men, or at least many men, are really insecure. They get more and more insecure the more they realize that the traditional resources that they had about power are being challenged by women. Women, when they go out and they work outside the home. And when they have not been schooled, been tutored in the fact that the world is changing, these insecurities mount up, they multiply. So the simple fact is that in classrooms, at universities, in high schools, in primary schools, we have to teach boys and we have to teach men in companies that the idea of wanting to control is precisely the fact that you're insecure in yourself. You have to do this reflective work. You have to do this psychological work about what you are, what you want in relationships. And if you want relationships where you want to be in control and women don't want that, clearly you are set on the wrong path.
Mm-hmm. Now, we have just completed another campaign of 16 days of activism and no violence against women and children. And looking at the fact that murder and rape of women and children, especially girl children, remain stubbornly high in this country, what is your view of anti-sexual and gender violence awareness campaigns such as the 16 days of no violence against women and children?
Elvis, there's some unhappiness from people who are well-intentioned that this is not working. But think about this. I mean, if you put in 16 days in a year in a country of where such brutality and cruelty and violence is an everyday occurrence, clearly 16 days is not enough. But that doesn't mean it's not necessary. What you need are more campaigns, more policies, a criminal justice system that works, that where you don't have people fighting each other, but are concentrated on preventing violence right at the start. You also need campaigns that rehumanize men. And so clearly, in my view, from what I've just said, is you absolutely need to make this an everyday occurrence. A number of people have said this already. So it's not just because 16 days campaign is not working, it's because it is inadequate on its own. You need more of this. You need every day. You need from the president, from CEOs down to kindergartens, where we teach boys that violence is oppressive, not just to others, but to yourself, because in doing violence, you are clearly putting yourself in the path of violence against you, either in your family, and if you're beating up boys, if you are using a slap or a punch or a belt to discipline your children, you are teaching them that this is the way to resolve problems. Mm-hmm. And so you need campaigns, many more campaigns and more policies to turn around this rising tide of violence, because it was coming down for the last 20 years, by the way. It's almost half, but in the last few years, there's been an uptick of murders, of grave violence in our country. Mm-hmm.
Now, we need more campaigns like this, and we need a book like yours, Liberating Masculinities. Where can people get the book?
Or if I understand some bookshops in Cape Town in particular have it, such as Clark's Books. But the easiest way is to get it from loot.co.za.
Professor, thank you so much for your time and joining us.
Thank you.
Now that was Professor Kopano Ratele. He's a masculinity expert telling us more about his book. That book, of course, out right now, Liberating Masculinities. You can get it at your nearest bookstore.
Shifting our focus a little bit, a failure to implement policies and laws to fight the abuse of women and children hinders efforts to deal with the problem. This emerged at an event to conclude the 16 days of activism against gender-based violence. Since the beginning of the activism period last month, 3 women were killed in Cape Town alone. Internationally renowned activist Prem Rawat was in the country to address the audience on the themes of eliminating violence through reconciliation, hope and forgiveness through a unique peace education program. Now, we spoke to Prem Rawat and asked him how the process of healing should begin.
Well, the way I look at it is the inner strength of the people that has to emerge. Because these symptoms that we see, the violence and all of these things that we see on the outside, are from a weakness that is from the inside. People are into debating about things, but nobody is feeling their strength. Nobody is feeling the clarity. Nobody is allowing the clarity to emerge. So it's very much like you have a flat tire on the side of the road, and everybody who walks by is saying, oh, you have a flat tire, you have a flat tire, but nobody is willing to help, to do something about it. And the time has really come to find the inner strength within people and to say, look, this is enough. We need to change. We need to be human. We need to have our humanity influencing us, not all this craziness.
Mm-hmm. Now, your peace education program has been running for 2 years now. How has the program been received? And especially when you promoted it here in South Africa, have people benefited through the program?
Oh, it has been an incredible response to the peace education program. In fact, I was talking to some of the people who have been through it and how they were expressing their gratitude, how thankful they were because it really changed their life, because it addresses the issue of the inner strength. This is what happens when you are weak on the inside. Then on the outside, you have all these prompts saying, no, no, I can do this, I can do this, I can do this. But inside, what can you do? Where is your strength? You know, good times will come, bad times will come, but you got to stand on your feet. And this is what Peace Education Program really hones in on, is to strengthen you. And that's why the response has been just amazing.
Mm. Now, how do we get men, or was there a large response from men to the particular campaign, and how do we get them involved to denounce violence, especially against women and children?
Well, the thing is, in this world, there is 2 laws. There's the laws of civilization and there's the laws of the jungle. The laws of the jungle are very straightforward. Big fish eats little fish. But in civilization, it has to be big fish helps little fish. Otherwise, the civilization starts to fall apart. And what is happening to people is that they have forgotten about civilization. They have forgotten about the humanness of a human being. And it is little fish who want to become big fish, even if it is just for a few minutes. And so then this violence occurs because they're not seeing, I'm a human being, this other person is a human being. And the solutions to it is reflection, seeing us, understanding us. We are completely out of touch with ourselves, and we need to be in touch with ourselves, especially at this time. And this isn't just South Africa. All around the world, people need to be in touch with their kindness, with their generosity, with peace, with love that every human being has inside of them.
And how do we start that process, Mr. Awad? Because some say it's a very difficult process to first start with yourself and love yourself before you can care for others.
Well, I understand and I respect the viewpoint of the people who sometimes even say to me, what you're talking about is impossible, it will never happen. And my answer to those people, at least, is this. What choice do we have? And so, if we have to begin, can we begin with ourselves? Can we slow down a little bit? Can we start to say, what do I want? What do I need? Can I begin from myself? There are tools. Peace Education Program is a wonderful, wonderful tool to allow you to get in touch with yourself, to see not your wants for a minute, but the needs that you have. Self-introspection is so necessary in this society today. We are bombarded every minute. We have got our hand down and two thumbs going. We are so busy, being distracted, that we have lost touch with ourselves, with our thoughts, with our ideas. And everything that is good seems, see the level of desperation here. Everything that is good, that is necessary, that is important, what is our answer to it? That's not gonna happen. That's impossible. I mean, my goodness, if we are on a sinking ship, we are doomed because there is no other choice. No, you've got to swim. You've got to find your strength. You've got to awaken from the heart, and you've got to go forward, because this is what life is about, not the problems, not to be completely overtaken by the problems. That's not life. Life is to awaken and grasp the good and to awaken the beautifulness in each one of us.
Are you optimistic that we'll find that equilibrium and that equation between men and women in the workplace and at home, where we can move to the next level and find each other?
Not only am I optimistic, but I am also realistic that without this, we have no good news, no good hope. This is not a luxury that I'm talking about. This is not nice things. This is not airy-fairy things. This has to happen. Otherwise, the very fabric of human beings is falling apart. Children in whose eyes we should see a twinkle, in whose eyes we should see hope, in whose eyes we should see joy. They are filled with vengeance. They are filled with sadness. They're filled with grief because their parents have been killed in front of them. This is no way to live. This is not life. This is not humanity. This is not civilized world.
Well, thank you very much. Now, the Extreme Fighting Championship held its final event of the EFC 56 just a few weeks ago. And looking forward to an eventful 2016. The organization has grown by leaps and bounds, and it's still on an upward trajectory. Just last week, I spoke to EFC President Cairo Haworth, who joined us from our Cape Town studios to fill us in on EFC's past as well as its future plans.
We had a great show last week, fantastic fights and a packed atmosphere, and it was a perfect way to end off a good year.
Let's talk a little bit about the night itself. I mean, you had Duplessis going up a division to beat Haratik. We had the much-hyped Yannick Bahati and challenger David Brzeski fight going to the UK fighter, as well as the debutant Bokang Masunyane, very impressive on his first night. What were your impressions of that big night?
Yeah, it was really good. There was a lot of hype coming up to that event. You know, all the fans are talking about it. It was building up a lot. And it's so great when a hyped up event delivers on the night. You know, every now and then you'll get an event where there's a lot of hype coming into it, and then the fights don't quite deliver. They end a bit quickly, or you know, and fans sometimes feel a bit disappointed. This was definitely not the case at EFC 56. A lot of hype coming into it, and huge action, and all the fans left there very happy.
No, very good. I mean, would one say that this particular fight night has been a good summary of the rest of the year? I'd like to find out from you, what has 2016 been like for EFC?
Oh, it's been awesome. It's been the best year by far in our organisation. I think we're 7 or 8 years old now, and each year just gets better and better. We still learning so much, still adding so much more to the shows, to the production. The level of the athletes are getting so much better. And you could really see it, like this last event, all the events this year. The level of the competition, the level of the performances that the athletes are putting on is really world class.
All right, now tell me a little bit. The EFC has grown to become an international brand. It broadcasts to different nations. I mean, I think pretty much across the continent of Africa, you can definitely find EFC. We've got fighters coming in from the UK, for example, and other nations as well. Is this a reflection of the sport's growth?
For sure. We get applications from athletes to compete from around the globe. I'm talking 10 applications a day. We've got athletes contracted from Las Vegas all the way through to New Zealand. And we're really spoiled for choice at the moment. We are one of the world's leading mixed martial arts organizations. The production of our show is really high quality. The way we look after our athletes is very good, you know, with their medical and their you know, everything from disability cover, just to the way that they're treated and promoted, the way we promote all these athletes really well. And because of that, we get the best of the best athletes wanting to fight at EFC, and we get to choose the cream of the crop, and hence why you get to see such great fights that you've been seeing.
So now the question that's begged to be asked is then, how does one get into the mix? How does one qualify to be one of the fighters on Fight Night EFC?
Yeah, it's like any professional sport. If you want to be competing at the top level of anything, you've got to be doing it 110%. You know, EFC, we've got the pick of the best mixed martial artists out there. So these guys are training 6 hours a day, 6 days a week. You know, they're not out when their friends are out drinking and clubbing or whatever. These guys are in the gym or getting an early night, getting some rest so they can train hard the next day. And it's really just putting in the time on the mat, putting in the time with the trainers, surrounding yourself with a good team, and building yourself up until you get to that level.
So is it safe to say that the sport has actually lost its image and the stigma of it being a sport for rough people, for brutes?
Yeah, I mean, I would say that that's quite a few years back that we kind of shook that off. You know, in the beginning, that was, call it the uneducated perception of the sport. But certainly, if you're looking at the athletes that are competing now, they've got to be proficient in 4 or 5 Olympic sports to compete at this level. So they're training in boxing, judo, you know, taekwondo, Muay Thai, wrestling, jiu-jitsu, and then conditioning and fitness on top of that. So just a level of commitment in order to get to that point. It's a complete, yeah, I mean, these are real athletes and real mixed martial artists.
So now one of the things, reasons that the sport of boxing has seen a decline, people are, well, at least in popular culture, people are saying it's because of the rise of MMA. What do you say about that?
Partly. You know, I think so. I think boxing's obviously got a big history, but in comparison, and again, it's all up to opinion. Some people prefer to watch boxing, some people won't. But in my personal opinion, when you watch boxing or you watch mixed martial arts and you're comparing the two, boxing is just very one-dimensional. You know, mixed martial arts has all the benefits of boxing plus so much more. And it really is, it's a lot more instant gratification. The fights often end a lot quicker, more exciting. So I think it's just got a much bigger and wider appeal, and certainly to the youth that is coming through. You know, the youth that come through nowadays, when they're watching sport, they don't want to watch long bouts, 12-round fights where no one gets knocked out at the end. That's a typical boxing fight where it goes to points, whereas mixed martial arts, that never really happens.
So, okay, let's take a little bit on that particular topic, because you've got personalities like Conor McGregor internationally and Floyd Mayweather talking about possibly fighting. I mean, McGregor went as far as getting himself a boxing license and so on and so forth. Do you see any EFC martial artists doing that at all?
We've had a lot of, at the moment it's always coming the other way around, so we have a lot of ex-professional boxers coming over and moving to mixed martial arts, like Elvis Moyo, for example. He's was an African heavyweight boxing champion, and with the rise of EFC and mixed martial arts, he's converted over and now he's a full-time EFC athlete and he just competes in mixed martial arts. And we see the same with kickboxing and karate guys and judo, all moving over to mixed martial arts because it is the platform at the moment that gives, certainly in Africa, that gives people a place where they can do it professionally, whereas most of those other sports you can't do it professionally. I think for guys going the other way, in Africa, not so much. Internationally, and even internationally, not so much. I think the Conor McGregor, Floyd Mayweather's once-off, what do we call it, dream fight, and they're just there for, they want to do it for the money. It's not as if Conor's looking to become a professional boxer full-time.
No, I get that. Cara, in closing, can you just give us an idea, would you support a push to have the MMA in the Olympics? And if so, how would you propose it works?
Yeah, it's an interesting argument, and I think we would. It would more legitimize the sport, and it would bring a whole new fan base to watch it, just because the Olympics has got such a big viewership and such a big audience. When you expose more people to mixed martial arts, then they would get more involved. And I think it would just be like any other Olympic sport. It would be amateur, and it will be fantastic if you look at it from an EFC point of view. If we had some amateurs going to the Olympics representing South Africa or whatever country they're coming from, hypothetically winning a gold medal and then turning professional, and that just gives them so much more training experience, and in the end we'll have such a bigger name athlete, more hype behind that athlete by the time they actually come and compete at EFC, so it'll be good for everyone.
Cara Howard, thank you so much for joining us. We definitely wish you a good break and a fantastic 2017, that EFC grows from where it is now to even a greater heights.
Awesome. Thanks so much.
Now, they have it. Cara Howard joining us from our Cape Town studios, the president of EFC Worldwide. Chat I had there with Cara Howard, and certainly hope that those interested in basically in martial arts, mixed martial arts, they sign up and actually may even go to a couple of matches before. That's where we leave it for now. We'll be back with more news, more analysis at the top of the hour. But before that, let's have a look at the weather across the continent.
Water-wise, water is an essential need. The scarcity of it could lead to loss of many lives, including livestock, plants, and much more. It requires us to use it sparingly and responsibly in times of need, failing which our taps and sanitation will not function. For more on water and weather issues, stay tuned to News Today, every Friday at 4:45 Central African Time. SABC News, making you water-wise.
We make sure to be where news is happening,
both locally and globally. For the latest business news, stay with us.
From South Africa to the world, we've got all your latest sporting news.
Don't miss our weather updates every hour.
Stay tuned to News Today, Monday to Friday, from 3 to 5:30 p.m. here on SABC News.
What is a national anthem and why do we need national anthems?
A national anthem becomes an instrument to foster social cohesion, identity, to create a sense of identity of a country.
It does happen that people feel that they cannot commit to what the national anthem does.
Unity is not formed from the sky. People don't just despise the national anthem, but it is because of certain things that are actually happening. The issue of languages, for instance. The issue of apartheid statues and monuments.
Well, a very good morning to you. This is Newsroom. If you've just tuned in, a very warm welcome to you. It's 11 o'clock on this Tuesday, the 20th of December. Now, this is Newsroom. I'm Renee Vess, and
I'm Kendall Makamate.
Well, today, of course, it's been a very interesting day. We've had a bit of fun. Of course, we wanted to know from you, well, we've been focusing rather, Kendall, on men that might think they know exactly what women want, but it turns out that men and women have directly opposing views about what makes a man attractive. Is this true, Kendall?
Actually, I wouldn't know because I've only got the viewpoint from me as a man, no? And one of the things that it says is I need to be well dressed and maybe like shave once in a while, you know, and smell good. Got to be funny, smell good, and from what you said, loyalty. You said. I think we've got some tweets that we can share.
Yeah, we were asking our viewers today. That's all of you. What do women want? So let's have a look at what you say. Big Tabang says, six-pack without brains is dangerous. Wise lady once said, women want to be loved fully. Oh, that's sweet.
Yeah, I think that's the kind of reaction he was looking out for, and he got it. Marco Masha reckons women love respect and time. Money is not the answer. Because so they love respect and time. Money's not the answer because they can work for themselves. Yes, that's a new age man right there.
Tabo says, women want men to stop cheating. You know,
that one resonates with you, hey?
Well, yes, earlier I said loyalty maybe is what women want, but speaking in general there. Sipo says, women want money first, then love, care and honesty. Well, I don't know so much about that one.
And as long as they feel protected, it's fine with them. And this is by Sipo from Spula GP.
Well, we're also running a poll. A recent study by men's grooming company Act says the least attractive qualities women listed for men to display was their wealth, muscular bodies and manly pursuits. Well, we're asking you, can men and women live happily ever after?
Right, the poll question once again is right there for you to see for yourself. 75% of our 175 votes say yes, men and women can live happily ever after, where 25% say no.
Well, we'll have to see. Keep sending those tweets in to us and vote on a poll if you haven't already done. But let's get back straight into the news with the headlines. The United Nations Secretary-General Ban Ki-moon expresses sadness and sent his condolences to the family of a slain South African peacekeeper after an attack on the SANDF military base in the Democratic Republic of Congo yesterday. Remaining in the DRC, fresh clashes between demonstrators demanding that President Joseph Kabila steps down and police have been reported as Kabila's constitutional mandate expires today. And 12 people have been killed and over 40 others injured after a truck plowed through a crowd of shoppers at a busy Christmas market in the German capital, Berlin. Now, before we get into that news, let's find out from Kendall what we should know in the sports.
Well, Renee, once again, it's mostly, it seems like towards the end of the year, it's always about cricket, it's always about soccer, and every now and then a bit of some boardroom politics going on. And that's literally what we've got in the sports this particular morning. So this is a quick summary of what you can expect later on in this hour. Bidvest have one last chance to go top of the log when they face Maritzburg United at the Harry Gwala Stadium tonight.
You want to let him shoot. Oh, it's hit the post, and Mane follows in, and deep into injury time, Sadio Mane has probably won the derby for Liverpool.
Senegalese forward Sadio Mane scores a late winner in the Merseyside derby to give the Reds the bragging rights to Liverpool.
I don't think it's just athletics, Jim, and I think there are other sports involved.
And the president of the World Anti-Doping Agency, Craig Reedy, says the doping problem is far bigger than just in athletics. All this and more detail I've got for you at 11:35. Be sure to stick around for that. But for now, we've got Renee who's got the news.
Thank you, Kendall. The United Nations Secretary General Ban Ki-moon has expressed his sadness at the death of the South African peacekeeper. Ban Ki-moon was speaking exclusively to the SABC at the UN headquarters in New York.
I'm deeply saddened by the news that very brave South African peacekeeper was killed and 2 soldiers were seriously injured. I extend my deepest condolences and wish these injured soldiers will get recovered as soon as possible.
Turkish police have reportedly detained 6 people over the killing of the Russian ambassador Andrei Karlov. He was shot in the back by an off-duty police officer as he gave a speech in Ankara last night. The attacker's mother, father, sister and 2 other relatives were held in the western province of Aydin, while his flatmate in Ankara was also detained. Earlier, the United States announced that its 3 missions in Turkey would be closed after a gun was fired in front of the U.S. Embassy in Ankara last night. Now, the embassy is near the art gallery where Karlov was shot. Turkish police have detained a man suspected to be involved in this incident. Well, let's go over to Elvis, who has some local news to get into.
Thank you, Renee. Yes, we continue with the story that we raised this morning, and that is the Saldanha residents on the Cape Coast, on the Cape West Coast rather, that have mixed feelings following a decision by the municipality to temporarily close the road leading to the beach on Reconciliation Day. Now, the move is regarded as racist by those who believe it's simply an effort to keep people of color away from the area.
The coastal town of Saldanha. Here, a community divided. On Reconciliation Day, the municipality barricaded a narrow road leading to the beach and a residential area. They say it was to control traffic, especially public transport, from congesting the area. The reasons, however, have not been well received.
They are not right to close the road because this place is a place for all people, all black, white, all of the unity, you see. And now they make for us like days before.
Now is Christmas. That road we want to use to come to the beach, and that's why he closed it. Now we want to know why he closed it, because everyone used it road to go to the beach, and there's no way to come to the beach.
Others believe with the congestion comes more problems.
With regards to drinking on a beach, I feel that, it's not the right place to do so, and we should respect that, for others as well that comes to visit the beach, yeah.
I said there must be we do it because why there's a big trouble for the young kids and the women and also.
The ANC on the West Coast says it's upset by this move.
Our position are very clear. They must open up all public access roads to the beaches because it's festive season, it is public holidays, and people want to enjoy their right to access to the beaches.
The municipality, however, says the public has free access to beaches and parking areas. But when parking areas are full, no additional vehicles will be allowed. It also adds that Saldanha and nearby Paternoster were identified as high priority areas due to the influx of visitors over the festive season, and that similar measures were put in place in previous years. Vehicles will be checked for alcohol on weekends and major holidays. Carmel Lochmer-Roberts, SABC News, Saldanha on the West Coast.
Now, for more on the story in our Sea Point studios, we are joined by Sammy Claassen. He is the ANC West Coast spokesperson for the African National Congress. A very good morning to you, sir, and welcome.
Hi, good morning to you and good morning to all the listeners.
Now, according to you, as the African National Congress, what is happening with this barring of access to the beach there in Saldanha Bay?
Yeah, what happened last Friday on Reconciliation Day, we received calls from community members that the municipality has closed down all public access roads that leads to the beachfront. Upon further investigation, we found out that they've put in place law enforcement officers and traffic cops that has barricaded and blocked off the public access roads to the beachfront. The law enforcement officers told us that they've received instructions from senior management and politicians from the DA-controlled Saldanha Bay municipality to block off the public access roads from the 16th of December, that is now Reconciliation Day, which was a public holiday, up until the 2nd of January 2017, after New Year's Day. Now, this is festive season. Reconciliation Day is such a very important public holiday, and there was no public consultation from the municipality. They didn't consult the community. There was no public participation processes put in place to notify the community. There was no formal notification sent out by the municipality to all the community who's living in Saldanha Bay, who are making use of the beachfront and the sea during the festive season. So the closing of a public road without community consultation processes or notifications are totally illegal and unacceptable. And as the ANC, we've called on the DA to open up the public access roads because it's the only roads that people can use to get to the beach front. Now we also found out during our own investigation that the DA municipality only consulted the beachfront residents who's living at the beachfront and who happen to be 90% white people. Now, we can't allow a situation where a few minority who's living at the beachfront can deny access for the majority of the people. When we investigated this matter, we found out that this passes, access pass or cards, whatever they call it, the people in Saldanha is now calling this a dom pass. These cards have been issued by the municipality for the residents who's living at the beachfront. And they were the only ones that they have been issued with these cards to get access in and out of the area. As you can see, this is now, to us and to the locals in the West Coast, this look like like the old type of dom pass type of card that restrict people's movement into the area.
Now you are then suggesting that this is a racist move, but you also talk about the illegality of the move. Why would you say that this is an illegal move by the residents, and explain how you're going to overcome it?
It's an illegal move by the municipality. It's a public road. You can't close public roads without any public participation processes, without consulting the community and who are actually the stakeholders. They've consulted only a few. There's more than 70,000 people living in Saldanha Bay municipality. You can't consult 20 residents at the beachfront. and expected all the other people who are also, because the beachfront is the beach is a national asset. The sea, it doesn't belong to the residents, it belongs to all the people. Now,
but the municipalities say that they have consulted the residents, and hence they've requested the prevention of alcohol consumption as well as access to the beach to non-residents. Now it seems like it is your word against theirs. What do you say to that, sir?
No, you see, the municipality are doing damage control because they've been exposed as from last week Friday. They're totally misleading the public and they're telling a lie to South Africa. They did not consult the people. There's no evidence that they used the ward committee systems or a public participation process. There was no notifications of any public participation by the municipality. So we are, as the ANC, we reject it. We're saying that they're misleading once again the public and they're trying to do damage control. What the law enforcement officers of the Saldanha Bay municipality told us, that they intend closing that roads as from last week Friday the 16th up until the 2nd of January. So they completely lost the plot by not consulting the community, who's a serious and a stakeholder in Saldanha Bay.
Now the residents of Saldanha Bay are saying that they've done this because they want to be protected from revelers that's partying until late in the morning, until 3 o'clock, drunken revelers making a lot of noise until 5 o'clock in the morning. What is your response to that, and what is the alternative to curb such behavior?
Well, we've seen the executive mayor of Saldanha Bay, Alderman Marius Koen, response in the Cape Times yesterday. And we view that kind of stereotype of white people as racist. Because as you can see in this Cape Times, the mayor was saying that the people are coming with loads of taxis and buses coming into the area. They're drunkards, they're noisy, and they're vandalists. Now, people that use public transport as a means to get to the beachfront are black people, are poor people, people that doesn't have means to get to by private transport to the beaches, are using the taxis. Now, people that use taxis normally is people from the townships, people from the squatter camps, people coming from the poor working class areas. Now that in itself, by implication, the mayor is echoing what the white 20 residents who's living there in that area are saying. It's actually, they are exposing themselves, because what lies at the bottom of this strategy is basically to keep colored and African people from the beaches. And that is unacceptable.
So, Mr. Claassen,
we are now 21 years.
So, Mr. Claassen, now we've established that this is illegal. We've established that this is a racist incident. What are you proposing? What is your alternative to create a balance between the residents and the public?
What we are saying, that law enforcement, visible law enforcement on the beaches are normal practice and is acceptable. Unbecoming behavior should be controlled by law enforcement and by bylaws of the municipality. They must use that mechanisms, but they can't block off public roads. We, as the ANC, on Sunday, we've called on the DA to open up the access roads, the public roads, by yesterday. And we went there as the leadership of the ANC, and they've opened up the roads. When the media, when there was a media rush yesterday and there was a lot of pressure on, and they've been exposed, they opened up the roads. So the roads are now completely open and people can access the area. But what we are saying is the executive mayor, for his utterances, must be called to account. And as the ANC, we are in the process of taking his utterances, because we view it as racist. We're taking him on that one. We are approaching the Human Rights Commission to test whether this utterances, whether it is racist, whether the implication of that is as a racist undertone, and that the practice to close off the road without public participation is a legal act. So as the ANC, we're taking them on. There's demand, there's pressure on us from the community side to take the mayor on. We've called on the DA in the province, on Mayor Patricia de Lille, who's the provincial chairperson of the DA, to suspend the mayor immediately, because his utterances is basically a stereotype, racist remark that offended people of color.
Yes.
And as the ANC, we're going to champion this this one by laying a complaint at the Human Rights Commission to investigate the mayor.
Are you, as the ANC, still going to do a march? We believe there's a march planned.
At the moment, there's no need for the march. What we said on Sunday, if the public roads are not opened by Monday, then we will mobilize the communities, we will mobilize our structures, and we will left no stone unturned to correct the illegal behavior of the DA municipality.
Mr. Clausen?
Now, it seems that they've heeded that call and they've opened up the public access roads.
Mr. Clausen, I thank you so much for your time and joining us in our Cape Town studios.
To all your listeners and viewers, Merry Christmas and prosperous New Year. Thank you.
And the same to you, and let's hope that the area stays open for your enjoyment. That was Sammy Clausen, the ANC West Coast spokesperson, chatting to us from Cape Town. We'll take a short break and we'll be right back after that.
The moment she turned the party into the party. Just look at them. They will talk about this for at least the rest of the evening. And, well, possibly once or twice tomorrow morning. So, to the master of the trick shot, you are indeed a party comrade. And we salute you with a bottle of Ballantine's finest blended Scotch whiskey for just $144.99 from Tops at Spa.
The Western Cape Education Department said last week that 2 girls captured on video assaulting fellow pupils at Lukhof High School in Idas Village in Stellenbosch have been recommended for expulsion. The school governing body made the recommendation following a disciplinary hearing attended by both girls. Now, earlier this year, in April, a 17-year-old pupil from Pietermaritzburg was sentenced to 7 years in prison for shooting and killing a 15-year-old pupil that he claimed was abusing him. School bullying is a type of bullying that occurs in an educational setting, and bullying without comprehensive definition can be either physical, sexual, verbal or emotional in nature, and it can also include cyberbullying. Now, to find out more, we are joined by Gillian Makota from the Centre for Justice and Crime Prevention. A very good morning to you, Gillian, and welcome.
A very good morning to you. Thank you for having me around.
In the introduction, we talk about some of the instances that has happened, these girls that fighting each other, that went viral and so forth. Are we perhaps breeding a violent society, you think, of young people?
I would like to say, to some extent, we are, because according to the evidence that is around, violence is pervasive in our day-to-day lives in our South African communities. And making reference to a national school violence survey that the CJCP conducted in 2012, it came out that 22.2% of the high school learners who participated in the studies confirmed that they have experienced some form of violence in their lifestyles, of which 1 in 5 has experienced some form of violence at school, with also 1 in 2 saying they've experienced some form of violence in the community. And also 1 in 10 has experienced some form of violence in the home. So having such kind of a scenario, we are seeing that violence is actually happening in our various communities at different levels, be it as an individual, be it at a family level, be it as community, as well as at a societal level. And it's really unfortunate that our schools are becoming a reflection of what is really happening and transpiring in our communities at large.
Now, we talk about bullying and the definition thereof that can be either physical, sexual, verbal, or emotional, and even cyberbullying online. Who is likely to get bullied in school?
Usually, bullying is a product of socialization. So it is determined with the environment that a person is brought up, be it an individual, your family background, your community background, the environment, if it's really an environment that uses violence as a form of expressing yourself. So one is likely to become like a bully. And usually, social aspects, different aspects as an individual, like just being someone who is aggressive in nature, someone who exhibits violence behavior. Anyone who has got social solving problem skills, poor performance in school can also produce like risks that a person can be vulnerable to bullying. And also pointing reference to the CJCP 2012 national study that was done, it has also came out that bullying actually provides risks for other vulnerabilities to other forms of violence. You've already mentioned like sexual violence. You've also likely to be vulnerable and susceptible to other forms of violence other than bullying. And just to do it like statistically wise, like those learners that were interviewed in 2012 on the National School Study Violence, they actually said 13% said have been bullied. And of those 13% that have said or confirmed to have been bullied in the school, 56% of them have been vulnerable or have experienced other forms of violence other than bullying. So, yeah.
Now,
this is what actually happens.
Yeah, so what we are saying is that a person from an unstable social construct could be open to either be a bully or be bullied. Is that what we're saying?
Yes, definitely. There's a possibility of doing, of such happening.
What signs should parents
Because once
look out for?
an individual is exposed to forms of violence, this is the only language that someone can understand as a way of expressing oneself. So it becomes like a normalized way of doing things, a normalized way of living.
So what sort of signs should parents as well as teachers look out for by identifying potential bullies?
There are quite a number of things that people can actually have a lookout, looking at both angles of being a perpetrator as well as a victim of bullying. As of a victim of bullying, what people need to be on the lookout is isolation, someone who is withdrawn, isolating himself from the others, just showing attributes of anxiety, attributes of depression. You can also relate to poor performance in school. You get to understand and maybe dig in further to actually understand what is really happening or what is really causing maybe poor performance in school, and just interaction with others. And also, one other thing that we also need to take note is, are there any maybe physical injuries? Because that's some of the things or the consequences that are actually associated with bullying. And with regards to being the perpetrator, what you need to be on the lookout is just the key thing to be on the lookout is one's behavior of exhibiting violent nature, being violent with others, even with oneself. So these are some of the key things that one or people should be on the lookout when it comes to bullying issues.
Are there long-term effects of bullying?
Yeah, definitely they are, because they come in different forms and in different ways. They can either be physical, they can either be psychological, they can either be social. And just to cite an example, the most long-term consequences are more of psychological. Like one loses self-esteem and, you know, the essence of valuing oneself. And with that, you end up a person being like depressed, and through depression, you are affected in the way that you even relate with others, even the way learners go there to school to get education, and even your grades are affected. And when you grow up, you don't have that kind of interaction with others. You are always isolated. And one of the worst case scenarios, the physical part, is like you can get like permanent injuries. And to some extent, in bullying incidences, we find people becoming very suicidal. So these are some of the consequences that can actually have in the long run on an individual. And also, like I've also highlighted before, that bullying also has got put someone at risk of being vulnerable to other forms of violences in life. So,
now,
these are some of the things that I can actually highlight on that.
Yes. So, in conclusion, Gillian, where can people that you know that is experiencing this get help from and assistance from, or to get material to read more about it?
Okay, there are quite different places where people can actually get help if they are either victims or perpetrators. To begin with, you can also have, people can actually go to their own parents, but that depends on how open the communication between parents and children can actually go, such that they can share their feelings and their concerns. And the other option that people can also do is they can also look out to the school being that point of entry where such things are happening, bullying is happening. Educators are there to provide also support. In case where there are issues that the school cannot respond to, like people can actually, schools have been recommended to come up with referral systems. Like the CJCP came up with a national school safety framework that has been adopted by the Department of Basic Education, so that they can provide management tools on how to respond to school violence. Yes. And within this framework, it is recommended that school needs to come up with referral systems. And by referral systems, it's a list of professional services that can offer help to learners, even parents, so that they can get help. Such professional services such as the health system, social services, psychological services, and examples such as the Child Line is one of those huge organizations in South Africa that can offer help and support to victims, even perpetrators of, and families of those affected by bullying.
Gillian, I thank you so much for your time and joining us in our Cape Town studios.
Thank you very much for the platform.
That was Gillian Makota from the Center for Justice and Crime Prevention talking to us about bullying in schools and where you can get assistance.
Well, it's that time of the year again where we wrap up the top trends on social media. It's been a tough year for many across the globe, and Twitter has been abuzz with the latest news, scandals, political wars and blunders, horrific terror attacks and some celebrity gossip. Now in South Africa, some of the top trending stories that stole the online spotlight were the elections, state capture, the SABC inquiry, the hair debacle, racism incidents, and our own sporting hero, Wade van Niekerk. On the international front, Donald Trump triumphed as the new president-elect of the US. People still love the Kardashians, and several terrorist attacks topped the social trends as well. Now, to discuss this further, we are joined in studio by Managing Director of Roy Africa, Tanya Curry. Thank you for being with us.
It's so good. Good morning to you, Renee. So good to be here.
It's been a very busy year on social media. Before we get into that, though, we've just had 3 terror attacks all in one day. What do you make of this? These are quite similar to some of the incidents we've seen over the year.
Yes, I think, Nice attack and Brussels attacks that happened earlier in the year were very dominant across news and social media. But over the period of 2016, we've had more and more of these types of incidents, making the coverage diminish. And yes, these three happened within a 24-hour space time. I see there's another one that's just happened now. So I think that we will see an impact on the charts. I think there's almost a little bit of fatigue with terrorism attacks, and that's tragic.
Let's come to South African trends. It's been quite busy. People seem to love politics and sports. We love race and religion, don't we?
Absolutely. I've never seen a country more absolutely obsessed with politics than South Africa. We're so involved to intricate level, like we understand it, we're watching it, we're involved, we know everybody, every minister's name, and we're very vocal about it. So we've seen over the year at ROI that politics has dominated those charts. I mean, state capture is very much the biggest story. And when I say the biggest, I mean by a good 51% of our year's media. That's an enormous story. We've also had fees must fall. Last year it was enormous. This year it's even bigger. I think it sits at number 3 on our charts this year. Politics very much in the face. Racism, as you said, also another ongoing, I hate to call it theme within the charts, but yes, that's certainly come to the fore as well.
I want to talk a bit more about these racial outbursts, as it's been called. A number of them have taken centre stage throughout this year. It seems that Penny Sparrow kind of put the spotlight on these cases. We saw a domino effect taking place after she was called out. Are we highlighting this problem, or is this a problem that's already existed and we're kind of just highlighting it now, pulling it out from under the rug?
I think social media has never been more prevalent than it's been in the past few years. So I think before, things like this were kept slightly quieter because we were relying on mainstream media to expose them. Now social media does that job, and very, very quickly, and with mass coverage, And I think Penny Sparrow particularly kicked off the year with a very bad note. It was at a time that was quiet, where people were all on their devices surfing. So I think that also exasperated the situation. And then, of course, Gareth Cliff entering the ring as a social media influencer made a huge impact on that story and set the tone for the rest of the year.
Let's move on to religion. We've had a couple of controversial pastors as well, and the jihads as well in other parts of the world. Tell us a little bit about these trends.
So ISIS certainly formed part of the big top 10 this year internationally. Here, the doom prophets and those stories certainly had their day. But it was just a day, and then the story dissipated. And I think, for me, it's one of the most noteworthy things that's happened in 2016 is the speed at which we are consuming social media conversation and mainstream media. It's like lightning. We've seen charts light up for an hour with the story, and then literally it's gone, where before it would stay on the chart for a week.
Let's go to international trends. Of course, we saw Trump was dominating the charts throughout most of the year, this even before the elections. During the elections, he also took centre stage as well. What has been the aftermath of this?
Yeah, I think you spoke about Trump triumphing, and I think certainly in the elections he did, but I don't know about from a social media perspective. There's a lot of angry so-called haters out there for Donald Trump, and there's a lot of people for him. I mean, the numbers do speak for themselves. But President Trump, now President-elect, certainly made the biggest story across international platforms. And another thing that I'm happy to see finally made it into the top stories is Aleppo. The crisis in Syria, finally getting some attention there, but doesn't come close to the Kardashians, and that's just tragic.
I saw that. We'll get to that in a moment, but on the note of Syria and Aleppo, I think, would you say that it's been a little bit undercovered throughout the globe, media, on social media?
Absolutely, certainly in the earlier part of this year. The actual crisis there has been going on for years. It's didn't start this year. The beginning of this year, it was almost deathly quiet. I mean, I often mention statistics where I was astonished at how little coverage it got. And it seems to me in the past month or so, that's starting to come out into the media space, and primarily due to social media. Social media not shutting up, and we've seen this time and time again.
I also saw there's a mother-daughter tweeters, Alabed Bana, I think her name is. We saw the infamous photos of the boy on the beach, the boy in the hospital, the ambulance rather. And, you know, is this something that we're going to see gain momentum in the next year?
You know, we talk about Aleppo, but what happened with Burundi? Burundi doesn't even come close to our charts. And those horrific images we've seen out of Aleppo, you can mirror those in Burundi. Yes. The most astonishing things happened in Burundi this year, but we never saw a thing about it. So it's good that finally Aleppo's come to the fore. I think social media is largely is accountable for that, but Burundi just disappeared.
Well, thank you very much, Tonya. Unfortunately, we've run out of time.
Sad.
But thank you so much for joining us, and all the best for the new year.
You too, Renee. It's such a pleasure to have been here. Thanks to you too.
Thank you, Tonya. Of course, the Kardashians still beating Fidel Castro there in the trends, but that was Managing Director of Roy Africa, Tonya Curry. Well, we are about to go to sports with Kendall. Let's find out what's happening with him there.
Thank you very much, Renee. Very interesting discussion you just had there with Tanya. Now, well, let's have a look, see what's happening in the world of sports. I am Kendall Makhamat. Now, the PSL mid-season break is upon us, and fans will either be going into Christmas full of joy and eagerly anticipating the new year, or they'll be hoping for a fresh start on the resumption of the league on the 7th of February. Now, here's a list of the last round of fixtures before we hit Christmas. Now, if you have a look-see, you'll see that everybody's going to be in action over the next few days. First up, we've got Orlando Pirates. They're going to be playing against Bloem Celtic at the Orlando Stadium. Then the Herigwala Stadium is where Bidvest Wits against Maritzburg United is going to be a very interesting one to watch, to see will Wits be able to pull the goods to maybe be able to go into the end of the season top of the log. They're sitting on 24 points. As you know, Cape Town City are on 25 points. Highlands Park against Platinum Stars at the Makulong. That is tonight. Then we go through to Wednesday, the 21st of December, where Golden Arrows are up against Kaizer Chiefs, Moses Mabhida Stadium at 6 p.m. Then 7:30 and 7:30 will be Chipa United playing Ajax Cape Town, and Free State Stars will be up against log leaders Cape Town City FC at the Gobu Park. Then Super Sport United play Polokwane City at the Lucas Muripe Stadium, 8 p.m. That is tomorrow evening. And then on Thursday, the very last match for the year 2016 in the Absa Premiership will be that between Baroka FC and the defending champions of the league, Mamelodi Sundowns, kicking off at 6 p.m. at the Peter Mokaba Stadium. Now, Liverpool fully deserved their 1-0 win over Everton last night. This is according to their manager, Jurgen Klopp. Sadio Mane's injury time strike proved the difference between the two sides at Goodison Park. Let's take a quick look at the highlights.
Early, sensing the run of Firmino, who might be in here. Roberto Firmino with another chance. Lallana backing it up. Mane goes for it. Klein has a crack. Now Henderson. I want to let him shoot. Oh, it's hit the post, and Mane follows in, and deep into injury time, Sadio Mane has probably won the derby for Liverpool. All that excellent defending from Everton looks as though it's come to naught. They can hardly believe what's happened, the home players and the home fans, but it looks as though Liverpool are going to come out on top again. Final score, Everton 0, Liverpool 1.
Now, staying with football and talking about arguably the best player on the planet in this year 2016, Cristiano Ronaldo will always remember 2016 as the year in which he was crowned a European champion twice. First, he triumphed in the UEFA Champions League with Real Madrid, clinching the title by scoring the last penalty in the shootout. Then, as Portugal captain, Ronaldo had the honour of lifting the first major trophy in his country's history at UEFA Euro 2016, secured by upsetting host France in the final in Paris.
What a year it has turned out to be for the Portuguese talisman, instrumental in Real Madrid's success in European football. Under the stewardship of Zinedine Zidane, who was promoted from Real's B team to replace Rafa Benitez after less than half a season in charge, Ronaldo was leading from the front. The Spanish Giants claimed their 11th European Cup title. Ronaldo scored the winning penalty in a 5-3 shootout victory over city rivals Atletico in Milan. 2 months later, an inspired Ronaldo captained Portugal's Euro 2016 winning team in France. There were many surprises in that tournament, with some smaller nations coming to the party. Iceland kicked England out of the competition, and Wales progressed to the semi-finals. Portugal and France, however, made it through to the final in Paris, where substitute Ede scored in extra time to give Portugal a 1-0 win over the hosts. Even though Ronaldo got injured in the early stages of the match, he managed to lift the first major international trophy for his country. Winning a 4th Ballon d'Or early in December kept a remarkable year for Ronaldo, who scored 51 goals in 54 matches for club and country. The award was a result of his exploits in colours of both club and country, even if it is designed to reward individual performance rather than team results. Ronaldo is now one short of the record tally of 5 awards won by Barcelona's Argentina forward Lionel Messi.
Ce 61e Ballon d'Or. Merci beaucoup.
For me, it's a great honor to receive my 4th Golden Ball. The emotion is like the first one. It's the dreaming come true again. I never thought in my mind to win 4 times the Golden Ball. So I'm so pleased, I'm so happy. I have opportunity to thank all my teammates, the national team, Real Madrid, all the people, all the players who helped me to win this individual award, this individual trophy. So as can you imagine, I feel so proud and happy to receive this amazing and beautiful ball, so I'm so happy.
In the 2016 FIFA Club World Cup in Japan, Real Madrid suffered an almighty fright as 2 goals from Kaku Shibasaki stunned the European champions in Yokohama. But that was before a Ronaldo penalty brought Real level on the hour. And in the first period of extra time, Ronaldo scored twice to help the 11 times European champions to win the FIFA Club World Cup for the 2nd time in 3 years.
Sabemos que en cualquier momento podemos hacer daño al rival.
The good thing about us is that we're always positive. We always believe in ourselves, that we'll have an opportunity to attack the opponent. Of course, we sometimes have difficult times, but by being positive and believing ourselves that we can do it, we do it. And our club is many, many talented players, so we can achieve good results.
Un equipo con mucho talento.
It has become a perfect year for me, and it's ending in this way, so I'm very happy. If you ask me which cup I'm most happy about, it's difficult to choose because all the cups are different. But Portugal's Euro Champions Cup has become a very special one for me. I continue doing my job and I continue enjoying my matches, and I want to get more titles.
Ronaldo is Real Madrid's all-time top scorer with 380 goals and has scored 68 times for Portugal. SABC News.
Now, just to bring you up to speed, Ronaldo scored a total of 380 goals for Real Madrid. It's a club record. The next best player would have been Raul with 323. So definitely something to be proud of, Cristiano Ronaldo. Now, going on to other sporting stories, the World Anti-Doping Agency says doping in professional sport goes far beyond athletics. On Monday, WADA President Craig Reedy addressed a UK Parliamentary Committee inquiry into combating the use of banned substances in sport.
The 2016 McLaren report into doping shocked the sports world to its core. It revealed evidence of a large-scale state-sponsored doping program and cover-ups in Russia since 2011, also involving the Russian Secret Service. Hundreds of Russian athletes were banned from taking part in the 2016 Rio Olympic Games in August, while samples of the 2012 London Games and 2014 Sochi Winter Games are being retested. The UK Parliament has been looking at ways to curb the use of drugs in sport. Addressing its Select Committee on Culture and Sport in London, Reedy said WADA should operate more independently.
We can learn by establishing our own investigations department, by employing senior people to do it, by having a whistleblower policy in place that will protect whistleblowers, collect the intelligence and begin to be more efficient ourselves.
The committee also heard that a mystery package delivered to Team Sky's Bradley Wiggins in France 5 years ago contained a flu treatment. British Cycling and Team Sky have been under scrutiny over the package, which was delivered to race winner Wiggins on the final day of the Criterium du Dauphiné.
I spoke to everybody involved. I got them to give me written statements just to back it up, so I could actually have that documented in writing. And then I felt that there was no substance, I couldn't see any anti-doping rule violation. However, I also felt that it was probably appropriate for me to pass that on and have that viewed by an independent authority who could verify the facts.
The committee has also questioned Russia's right to host the 2018 FIFA World Cup. It called for proper anti-doping measures to be in place during the event. Liesel Zankel, SABC News.
And that's where we're going to leave it with a sport. A very interesting note right there on that anti-doping thing, because it's been the hue and the cry the entire year. Thank you very much for having joined us. We will be back tomorrow morning with everything once again, 9 o'clock sharp till midday. The entire team will be here. And I want to thank you once again for having joined us. You can always tweet us on the question of the day as well as the poll. We're really quite interested in to see how it is that it finishes off tomorrow morning. Until tomorrow, this is Since.
As a transgender activist, do you feel welcome? Are you free here in South Africa?
In South Africa, we think that 1994 just took an eraser